Radio on Twitter. It's Highland Hub on Facebook. And by the way, if you want to use WhatsApp, it's the same as the text number. The WhatsApp number for Highland Radio here is the same as the text. It's 086 60 20 5000. It is a Monday morning. It is the 27th of March. And let's begin our customary look at the papers this morning by taking a look at the Donegal News. Mass exodus of staff. More than 170 staff resigned from Donegal HSE last year. Louise Doyle writes that almost 2 staff a day under the age of 50 resigned from the Donegal HSE. The majority of resignations were tendered by Letterkenny University Hospital employees. These figures secured by the Donegal News under Freedom of Information legislation. So 173 staff leave the organisation in 2022. Also, site work to start on a 50 million sewage scheme. Ishka Éireann staff will be on site in Ramelton this week, preparing to start work on a 50 million euro scheme there. It's been a long-awaited one. We have the Derry News this morning as well. SDLP seeking redress scheme for homeowners affected by defective concrete blocks. A considerable number of homes across Derry, Tyrone and Fermanagh are affected by defective blocks. That's according to Daniel McCrossan, MLA. The other papers this morning, the Irish Independent. Home prices up again as interest rate hikes fail to curtail demand. Worsening house supply is adding to the crisis facing first-time buyers. Latest house price index shows. That story by Mark Keenan there. Also, DNA is not proof of who killed baby John. That's according to the solicitor representing the couple arrested on suspicion of murder in the Kerry babies case. He's questioned the validity of their detention and said he expects them to be exonerated. There was, of course, an awful lot on that story on the weekend papers as well. And those of us of a certain age will well remember that whole Kerry babies controversy back in the early 1980s. And it was fascinating to read over the papers at the weekend and then read all the coverage. I mean, I would have been in college when all that happened back in the early 80s. And it certainly was... It was not a very auspicious time for this country. Let's just say that for the moment. A lot of things happened in or around about sort of that period that we cannot look back on with any sense of pride that this country did the right thing. The Irish Times this morning, results of DNA tests awaited in Kerry baby's case. It's a couple arrested last week strongly deny killing baby John again. That's a quote from their solicitor. Overhaul of planning system not workable, claims lobby. More planners and financial support are required for changes, says Institute. Serious concern in planning body over restricting access to judicial review. A story there by Arthur Beasley on the front of the Irish Times. Also, a lovely picture of Bosco Hogan after being presented with the Special Tribute Award at the 25th Irish Times Irish Theatre Awards. They took place at the TU Dublin Grange Gorman complex there, and a Bosco Hogan, just one of the great actors of our time. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Now, let's take a look at the Irish Sun this morning. Blue Monday, nation at fever pitch as Euros campaign begins. The nation has hit fever pitch as the boys in green prepare to kick off their Euro 2024 qualification battle tonight against Les Bleus. Ireland take on World Cup finalists France at Dublin's sold-out Aviva Stadium. 50,000 fans will rally Evan Ferguson and the lads to beat Kylian Mbappe and company. Ireland go into the match as massive underdogs. But a superfan has told the Irish Sun a surprise could well be on the cards. Kylian Mbappe playing at the Aviva Stadium. It's a fascinating prospect. What are Ireland's chances? Look, I'm no expert. There is always a chance. There is always a chance. Whether it's a good one, well, that's another story altogether. The Irish Daily Mirror this morning, Kerry babies probe again. Couple totally innocent. A solicitor for the couple arrested on suspicion of murdering baby John insists they are completely innocent. The man and woman were released without charge last week in relation to the 1984 County Kerry tragedy. Pádraig O'Connell, the lawyer, said there is no case to meet and he's called for a quick decision on whether his clients are to face charges. Now, he does make an interesting point, actually, about DNA, because, I mean, it may be, now, and I say it may be because I am no expert on these things, it may be that DNA may be able to prove parentage or non-parentage, as the case may be, and that too is also completely up in the air. But even if DNA were to prove parentage, that is a far step from saying it then goes on to prove exactly what happened to baby John. And let's always remember that at the root of this story, at the absolute root of this story, is a baby that was found on a beach with multiple stab wounds. And the question is, what happened to that baby? And until we can answer that question with everyone's satisfaction, then it is outstanding. Also on the front of the Irish Daily Star this morning, baby John probe couple innocent. It's the same story. And deluded Dwyer is still saying, I'm not a killer. Deluded Graham Dwyer is still insisting he's innocent of the murder of Elaine O'Hara. Sources say he claims he was not having an affair with Elaine before killing her and was trying to help her. The claims have emerged after Dwyer lost his appeal against his conviction for murder on Friday. And the front of the Irish Daily Mail this morning, again, it's the same story. Kerry Baby's latest solicitor questions validity of baby John arrests, concerns raised over Garda actions in probe. Now, it's interesting that they're sort of billing this as the Kerry Baby's latest, because that was pretty much the headline on every Sunday paper yesterday as well. The same solicitor questioning the validity of the arrests and making his own, as he has clearly done. He's been quite public in his belief of the situation. So that's another one for consideration there. So that's the way things are looking on the papers this morning. It is, as we say, a Monday morning. It's the start of a brand new week. What are going to be the big issues of the week? Well, perhaps you can play your part in actually determining what those issues are. As we said, if you want to text us, it's 086 60 25,000. You can also make contact with us via text. As we said, WhatsApp 086 60 25,000. Call us 07491 25,000. We can also be contacted via social media if you want to get in touch on Twitter. It's at Highland Radio. On Facebook, it's Highland Hub. Email us on comments at highlandradio.com. It's approaching 12 minutes past 9. We'll take a short break.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Not sure where to start with your smart meter? Sign up to a Home Electric Plus smart meter price plan from Electric Ireland to see how much energy your appliances are actually using. Track your usage monthly, daily or even hourly and get tips and advice on how to use less. It's a smart start to controlling your energy usage. To sign up, search Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Smart meter and online account required. Features available after 4 months. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie.
I'm Lorraine Keane, and I hate feeling tired and hormonal. Yet that's exactly how I felt when my perimenopause started in my late 30s. For nutritional support, I chose Irish supplement Clean Marine Menamin. Why? Because Menamin contains omega-3, vitamin D, and also vitamin B6, which contributes to the regulation of hormonal activity and helps reduce tiredness. All in just 2 capsules a day. Ask for Menamin at health stores and pharmacies or learn more at cleanmarine.ie. I'm glad I did.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It is 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. If you've been travelling in the vicinity of Ballybuffet over the past number of days, you may well have seen a sign that has garnered a lot of attention. The sign's on the side of the road. It says, potholes ahead, remove dentures, tighten bra straps. And it's been eliciting a lot of comment on social media. I had a good giggle at when I saw myself on social media over the weekend, to be absolutely honest. And the tagline on some of the coverage is, if you don't laugh at Donegal's potholes, then you'll probably cry. Now, I'm joined on the line by David, who is well familiar with the roads this sign refers to. David, good morning.
Morning, Donald. How are you?
Very well indeed. David, it's a funny sign. We all got a good laugh out of it, but at the back of the laugh is a very, very serious issue.
It is. And I think it's kind of sad where we are today in modern society, where something designed to be a joke is something that actually highlights something that really, really does need to be addressed.
In terms of the potholes in the area, as we said, you are a regular traveller in that area. You know those potholes, you know those roads only too well.
Yeah, well, between myself and the wife, we do the school runs over there. So, you're over it in the morning, and then you're coming back over it in the morning, and then back in the evening time too. So basically you're travelling the road 4 times a day.
Yeah.
Look, it's been like that for about 3 months now, maybe even more, as far as I can remember. I know it's been before Christmas anyway.
Yeah.
There have been attempts made to fix it, but it's, every time it freezes, every time there's a bit of snow, it just goes back to where it was. And I mean, some of those holes can be 3-4 inches deep in places,
Yeah. And in terms, in terms of the actual quality, it's just deteriorated in the past while, or has this been a gradual deterioration over a long period?
Well, look, you can't say it was a case that, it's been neglected or something. I do think the local authorities are doing all they can to maintain it up to a point. When you get the snow and the frost, etc., obviously it increases the wear and tear in the road and causes it to break up. But I think they're slow to react in repairing it. Whether that's down to budget or whatever, I'm not sure. I don't want to say.
Well, I tell you, we have someone on the other line who can perhaps throw some light on that. Councillor Patrick McGowan, good morning.
Good morning, Don.
Patrick, you're listening to what David is saying. I'm sure you're all too familiar with the issues on these roads and the issues David's referring to.
Yeah, particularly on this road now. I was saying to Caroline there, that stretch there, and there's another stretch up at Coromona, about 50 metres there. They wouldn't have been on the road programme last year now because we agreed a year in advance, but we had our MD meeting there 2 weeks ago, and that there's been brought forward now. They've just cut some of the other roads and put them sections in. That it certainly deteriorated a lot there at Christmas with that heavy frost. There were certain parts done that is. In the meantime, what they've been doing is they've been using that stuff, what they call this deferred set. They use it in the winter time. You'll see it in the back of the pickups, and it could sit there a couple of days and throw it into the ground and just flatten it. But it's just a hit and miss thing, and you can imagine any workmen going out throwing that in the ground. It's very frustrating for them too, because this time of year they generally don't use hot tar and chips because of the frost and cold and the rain. But look, I know David's saying there, everybody up there saying, and the problem is as well, a lot of people use that as a mini bypass of the town. So it's an awful lot of traffic focused on a very, very narrow road along that bridge. Like even this morning I've been on from again, they just need to keep back. It is frustrating, and people tell you, look, they're paying road tax and they're entitled to a certain standard of a road, there's no excuse for it. They need to hurry up and get it done.
Now, we do know that there's very important works about to be done in Ballybofey and Stranora by Irish Water, and that's going to be getting underway very, very shortly indeed. With that in mind, is that potentially going to put now even more traffic on the road, that even more people are going to be trying to use it as a mini bypass?
Absolutely. Tell them about it. But you're right, yeah. There's going to be a lot more using that road and the other side roads as well to try and avoid the town. Because look, there's traffic jams in Ballybofey right now before the work starts. So where's all this extra traffic and that? Now, they're going to put on a one-way system, which means keep the traffic moving. But people frustrates drivers and sitting in long queues and not knowing what's happening. So hopefully this one-way system will work and have it in the town. But as you say, both going round Logues Bridge and round Dreenan, places to get is something what they intend to do in Dreenan Logues Bridge is get a contractor on and put down that asphalt bitmac, a proper finish, not a temporary one. And they need to do that before some of this heavy traffic is on it, because it is very heavy, the traffic at the moment. Now, there's no doubt. And people are rightly complaining now. There's no doubt about it.
As you said, it is being included on the roads programme following that discussion that took place at the Lifford Stranora MD meeting just under a fortnight ago. How long is it going to take for that to be actually translated into work on the ground?
Well, we're told that they're looking for a contractor to do it, and then getting contractors, even any of them type of works, stretches are hard enough to get, but look, they can't sit as it is anyway, whatever, even if they have to come in and temporarily resurface it and then wait for the contractor, but it needs to be, and it actually has to be hot tar and chips now. The deferred set does. The deferred set in a way up a side road or bog road where you might get the odd car might work and it may not, but down there it will not work. It'll just be gone within an hour.
David, are you taking any comfort from what Councillor Patrick McGowan is saying to us there?
I am. The main thing is that it gets done, but the problem is, do we have to put up a funny sign on every road that needs attention? Yeah. Again, not maybe 3. There's a stretch of road just
Yeah.
below me, and it's like a right down into first
Yeah.
gear, crawl across it because the roads are such bad shape.
Yeah, well, no, I think
You know,
in fairness to the council, I mean, I think in fairness to the council, I would say that decision, and as it happens, I did attend that meeting virtually that Councillor McGowan is talking about, and they were discussing this in the council almost a fortnight ago. So I think in fairness, it wasn't necessarily just the sign that made this happen, but the sign is an outward expression of the frustration of the community, and it does have to be taken seriously.
Well, it's the sign that has us on the radio this morning, Donal, you know.
That is a very fair point. That is a very fair point.
Do we have to put the sign up on every bad road we have in the county?
Yeah. That's a very fair point indeed. Councillor Patrick McGowan, I want to give the final word to you from the point of view of Donegal County Council. You've heard what's been said. As I said, we all got a good laugh from the sign, but it's a sign that points to a very, very serious problem, and it's a problem that if action isn't taken soon is going to get worse.
Absolutely, and you know, from all the time I'm in the council, it's the same thing, and even before that, it's always about the roads, and people rightly tell you they're paying tax and they expect a certain standard of a road. You know, I don't know what's the climate here in Donegal that we have wet sort of 3/4 of the year, but the roads just don't seem to last as long. We have questioned the quality of the material coming into that, even on the main roads you see them breaking up. But look, I pass on the messages. I travel the roads regularly all around them. I go looking out on the roads and on to engineers and overseers and management, and it's down to management. And management need to make sure that we're doing best practice, and they also need to ensure that there's a fair spread of money. And that is a big issue. And you would have heard that time and time again, Donal.
Well, there's a plenary meeting of council taking place in Lifford today. I'm sure you're going to be speaking to various engineers and officials in Lifford while they're this morning and this afternoon, and I'm sure this is going to get mentioned and be one of the topics we'll be talking about.
Yeah, well, I just don't wait for meetings either. Like, I'd be ringing them every single day because the potholes and drivers won't wait for meetings either. It needs to be done, like, and I do say, look, it's not down to the workers. Workers are doing their best. They know this the fair set doesn't last. It's a chance it'll stay and it won't. But it's and these very busy locations, certainly Dave's 100% right. And there's a few other sections around that area that are bad. And we did change the road programme there, as I say, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Area since this time last year.
Yeah, one caller is saying nobody uses that road as a bypass. It's the road you have to drive to get to the town if you live there. So says one caller. Another caller is saying, ask Patrick about the roads around Convoy. Is there going to be any work done on those roads?
Yeah, there's a couple of... Look, there's probably... Our area is broken into 3 or 4 districts, and there's probably 3, 4, 5 roads in each district. And really, you know... What I say to people, I've said it to them a long time. So people come along, go to your councillors and engineers and keep ringing on about it. And I would always, as long as the worst roads in each area are done, the worst roads in each area, not picking a road for any other reason. And that's and we have to keep and just use whatever money we have, use it as best we can.
And again, a caller says, I'm a cyclist and a runner. I would usually go up to the scenic area of Cavan, Upper Killygordon. The roads around there are a disgrace, particularly the Glens Road up toward the steeple. There's water and muck coming down the road and flowing in front of someone's house. It's a disgrace in this day and age. That's the road I'm sure you're very familiar with. Yeah,
I do, yeah. Certainly, again, the busier roads will always get priority. Some of them are quieter roads, but they are just as long. The main thing is to spend the money they have wisely and keep lobbying for more money.
Councillor Patrick McGowan, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. And David, thank you for bringing this to our attention as well this morning. Good morning to you both. And we hopefully will see work. Yep, thank you. We will hopefully see work done on that road sooner rather than later. But the council is on the case. And at this point in time, I suppose we can ask no more than that. Just got a comment in from a caller. Comment came in with regards to yesterday. I met a group of teen boys, 13, 14. I was heading out in a show and they were throwing rocks and stones onto the road in front of cars. On the way back again, I met them close to the school. This is in the Inishowen area. One of them intentionally ran to get stones and threw them up into the air in front of my car. Luckily, none of them hit. Can parents please warn their children of the danger of doing stupid things like this just to be cool in front of their mates? And the lady in question says, if there's a next time, I will take their photo and post it on social media. And it is potentially a very, very serious issue. That's from a caller there. It happened in the South Inishowen area. Rocks and stones being thrown on the road in front of cars and into the air as well. Another person, attention, the residents of Knockard, please be aware my son and his friends were playing football in the green area of the estate in Letterkenny. They were kicking the ball and ending up on the road. A passerby who lives near kicked the ball back to the kids from the road. He then proceeded to walk over to them and started videoing them. And it's a lot of people disturbed at this. It may well be that it's a totally innocent thing, but it's, you know, it's an issue, and I think anyone who is having contact with children, however innocently it may be, it's something you have to bear in mind, that there's concerns. Now, maybe it may have been someone who said, isn't that nice, a good old game of football taking place, let's take a video because it'll be a nice thing to have. But, you know, in this day and age, we have to be really, really careful about interactions like that. And it's always a little bit concerning when you hear of, you know, video being taken of children, particularly when consent isn't asked of parents. I know certainly I've been involved in various things in terms of theatre and sport and so on, and the rules around videoing are very, very strict. And if you've ever gone even to something like a community games or something, or a swimming meet with children, I mean, it'll be made quite clear to you exactly what the rules are with regards to videoing, and we do have to keep those things in mind. Interesting story in one of the papers today. It says politicians are so lazy in the Dáil gym. Fewer politicians than ever are using the Dáil gym, as figures revealed visits slumped to their lowest level last year. TDs and senators worked out in the taxpayer-funded facility just 119 times. The well-equipped facility was fully open last year after COVID restrictions were lifted, but representatives seemed reluctant to visit. However, the numbers are going down. Between July and September, just 14 sessions were recorded by elected representatives. Now, in fairness, between July and September, the Dáil isn't sitting, so it isn't as though we have a load of public representatives in the Dáil between July and September. So, in fairness, I mean, they're not going to be there on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure they'll all be following their own fitness regimes at home. Now, we're going to take a very quick break. Back in a moment, and we'll be speaking about a very important issue, the reform of the carers allowance.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
With passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go, whoa!
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
Worth 10,000 euros.
Plus £5,000 spending money. Woo!
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Draw takes place Thursday, 6th of April on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Ooh.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy, because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
The Top Line annual spring sale ends this Thursday, 30th of March. High quality hardware, tools and outdoor products for your home or garden projects. Visit your local Top Line store for great products at great prices. Shop our spring sale. Ends this Thursday. Top Line, here to help, happy to advise.
Could it get any better as a senior citizen? No sitting in traffic trying to get to work. Heading off on midweek breaks. Out for a bite to eat whenever it suits. And now that bite to eat costs even less at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny, with 15% off after 3 every weekday when you spend €15. Meet up for a chat and a bite to eat Monday to Friday, with an extra 15% off the menu for all senior citizens at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. A very important issue in this county and indeed everywhere is that of the carers allowance. We've had many conversations about the need for that allowance to be reformed, and a motion is being placed in front of Dáil Éireann by Sligo Leitrim and South Donegal TD Marion Harkin. And Deputy Harkin, I'm delighted to say, joins us this morning on Zoom. Deputy Harkin, good morning.
Good morning to you and your listeners, Donald.
Marion, this is an important issue. We've had many conversations about carers allowance over the years, and I'm sure it's one of the issues you are lobbied about constantly by constituents and indeed by others. The time is right to bring this motion.
Well, I suppose in a way it's way past time, because if you go back to 2008, the income disregard for carers allowance, and what that means is the amount of money that you could earn and still get the full carers allowance was equal to the average weekly income in any household. And back in 2006, I think then Fianna Fáil government promised that they would keep it in line with the weekly earnings. From 2008 to 2022, there was no increase in the income disregard. So in other words, those on the average household income, which is a modest enough income, were not able to get the full carers allowance. Now, to be fair to Minister Humphreys, in 2022, she did increase that income disregard about 1/3 of the way. So my motion, which was not opposed by the Minister, which is significant, meant that I asked for a specific issue to be dealt with, and that is that in the next budget, that is the budget that we'll see in 5-6 months' time, that the income disregard, the amount of money you could earn before your carers allowance was cut, would be the same as the average household income as the CSO has obviously calculated it to be. And that at the moment is €900 for a couple and 450 for a single person.
You're also looking for individualised means testing, basically saying that, look, there are people that will have individual circumstances and you cannot make decisions based solely on the amount of money that is coming into a household and the amount of household income. There has got to be more in the equation than just figures, because this is about much more than money.
Oh, it is about much more than money. I mean, the various, whether it's the CSO or other surveys, the Irish Health Survey, calculate there's around 500,000 carers in the country. But Donald, just 92,000 of those get carers allowance. And included in that are about 43,000 who get half-rate carers. So you can see that the numbers who get carers allowance is quite small to begin with. And as I said, about half of those get half-rate carers. And it's also worth mentioning that about 67,000 young carers, that is carers under 18, get no carers allowance. So that puts it into context. And some of your listeners out there might think that, look, carers allowance isn't that hard to get. You put in a few hours here, a few hours there, you get carers allowance. Absolutely not. Carers allowance is one of the most difficult payments to get, in the sense that there's a lot of conditions, but the main ones are that you must be providing full-time care, which is a minimum of 35 hours per week. But the real issue is that the person you provide care to has to be assessed as needing full-time and continuous care, because they are a danger to themselves. So you and I know what that means. If somebody needs that level of care because they would be a danger to themselves without care, you're actually talking about 24/7 care. And that's what needs to be provided for €236 per week if a person is under 66 and cares for one person. But on top of all the requirements, and I've only named one of them, but that's the most important, there's a means test. So that means that a very considerable number of carers who care full time actually don't get carers allowance at all, or get part of it, what they call a reduced rate. And when you speak of individualisation, what that means is that the person themselves, the person who is caring, who is doing that care work, that they will be assessed on their own income, not on the income of somebody they live with. Yeah. Because the truth is that the carers allowance of €236 per week is taken up almost entirely by extra caring costs, whether it's extra heating or transport. It's not even as if somebody gets that money. It's just extra income to keep the show on the road.
You made a very important point there, and we've actually just had a comment in, I think, that sort of shows this perfectly. Caller says, my partner has cared for her mother for years, always got carer's allowance, but when we got married last year, she got cut off. What's ironic is her mother now needs 24-hour care, but there is no help. As a young couple, we can't continue on one wage coming into the house. She is saving the state by caring for her mother at home. Not giving her support to do so is just ridiculous. 2 points there. The point you made about a woman who was receiving carer's allowance is now cut off because she is married and her husband's income has been brought into this as a factor. But the really important line here, and it's the one we hear so often, it's one of the biggest cliches in the debate about carer's allowance. But a lot of the time, the reason cliches are cliches is because they are true. And it's that people who are caring for relatives at home are saving the state money.
Absolutely. And what happened in that situation was that before the person got married, they were assessed on their own income. But after they got married, they were assessed on household income. And what that means is that the person who cares very often has nothing, no income that they can call their own, as it were. And in many households, income is shared, but in others, it is not. And sometimes the carer, as well as caring, and as you say, saving the state that money, and I'll come to that in a moment, as well as caring, they have no income in their own right and are totally dependent on the person they are sharing that household with, whether, their partner, their wife, their husband, whatever it might be. And the Citizens' Assembly and the committee, the Dáil Oireachtas Committee on Gender Equality, have, after studying the issue, asked government to look at individualisation. In fact, to have an individualised approach to carers' payment. Because you see, the issue comes from the fact that when it was brought in 33 years ago, it was seen basically as a payment to women, because at that time, almost 100% of carers were women. It's now 77%, so that's changing, but it's still predominantly women. So it was seen as a payment to women, if you like, to stay at home and to care for, to take on all the care duties. But that's completely changed now. The way we live has completely changed. So therefore, we need to individualise carers' payments. In other words, that the person who gets the payment is assessed on their own income. And when it comes to saving the state money, this figure would be in the upper range because it would mean that you would cost care at €20 an hour, and most carers would be paid somewhere between 15. Some carers are paid $12.50, or some even lower, but $12.50 to $17.50 an hour, about $1 billion a year. So, I mean, that's a massive sum of money if the state were to pay for care. But the truth is, the vast majority of families want to manage the care in their own home. The vast majority of people want to stay in their own home until the very last second that they don't have to. And to be fair to Minister Humphreys, she's the first minister in 14 years that did increase the income disregard, but it's not, she went 1/3 of the way, but in that gap.
In terms of care, and there's an interesting one's come in because it almost asks the question, how do you define what care is? I mean, very often if it's an elderly parent or an elderly relative, it's very straightforward. If it's someone that has special needs, it's very straightforward. But a caller says, we've been refused carers allowance, yet they accept our child is in need of care. Because of health issues, our child might be in school just one day in a month. Now, that means as a mother, I cannot keep down a job because I have got to be at home to look after my child. Now, do I deserve a carer's allowance because I have to do that? Or because even though the state accepts that she is ill, they don't accept that she qualifies for care in that context? So there seems to be an issue here as to what the definition of care and what the criteria under which a carer's allowance is granted actually are.
Yes, your listener is absolutely right, because I mentioned there are a number of restrictions, and I only detailed one of them because if I were to go through them all, we'd be here until the 10 o'clock news. But one of the other restrictions is that the person you care for must be over the age of 16. So that means if you're looking at somebody under 16, and I think in your situation, or the situation, caller who called in, that would be the case. And that person is not entitled to carer's allowance. I mean, if that person wants to get on to me or to any of their local reps to see are there any other payments or assistance they might be entitled to, we certainly check it. But it is another example of how restrictive the payment is, number one, because the conditions are quite strict. And I mean, I don't mind the conditions being strict from the point of view that the person actually is providing 35 hours care per week, because then, people who might be providing just a few hours here and a few hours there would end up getting a similar payment to people who provide care 24/7. And that would be essentially, that wouldn't be right, basically. So I don't mind that aspect, but what I do mind is the fact that over a certain income, like the first person who texted, once they got married, they were assessed on household income, carers in allowance gone, and the other lady who contacted you, or the other person, I'm not sure, man or woman, who was looking after their child with special needs full time, who might attend school once a month, is not entitled to any payment because that child is under 16. There is also the issue of the adequacy of the payment, and that needs to be reviewed. So, you see, I suppose from when I started out in the European Parliament, and I chaired the Carers Interest Group with Cathy Sinnott, and now in the Dáil, where I'm one of the co-chairs of the Carers Interest Group again, I do see that the whole caring has changed. Society has changed, and the way we live our lives. And one of the things I would always say from then until now, that if we didn't have family carers, if we didn't have people who were prepared to do what your caller is doing for their child with special needs, or your previous caller is doing for their mother, or I'm sure 100 other callers who could, or 1,000 who could call your station today and tell their story, if they weren't doing that, then, the healthcare system would collapse, because those people would need the state to provide healthcare. And if we, the social welfare system would collapse because of the assistance those people would need. So we do need a change in how we view caring. Caring is not a women's issue. Caring is a societal issue. And to be fair, the minister has moved a bit, but she didn't actually oppose my motion of increasing the carers' income disregard in this budget. So whether that means she'll go all of the way or part of the way, I'm not sure. But at least it does indicate that there's a proper recognition within this government that we carers have fallen so far behind. And a final comment, because I'm sure you want to finish up on this, is when we look back at the bank crash in 2008, and there's been many, many comments on it. But one of the matters that really never got that much traction was the fact that family carers suffered, because so many people were outside the income levels for carers allowance, because we never increased the amount of money that they could earn and get carers allowance in line with inflation, in line with average household income. And at the very, very minimum, we need to right that wrong now.
But what we also need to look at is what the government's response is going to be. It's one thing for the Minister and the government not to oppose a motion. It's another thing entirely for the Minister and the government to actually apply that motion. And we've seen so often motions will be brought forward by opposition figures and the government won't oppose it. It'll go through and nothing will then happen. Do you believe that Heather Humphreys has both the interest, and it would appear from what you're saying she does appear to have the interest, but does she have the political clout and the support of her cabinet colleagues to actually go from being a minister who doesn't oppose a motion to being a minister who actively and, deliberately puts that motion and its spirit and its words into practice?
Well, that remains to be seen. To be fair, the Minister did say in a response, because I listened very carefully, that carers would be a priority for her in the next budget. I have spoken to her about it and I know she has a full understanding. But as you say, the real question is, when push comes to shove, will she be able to deliver for carers? And it's important to say this isn't bringing them, a step up from where they were. This would be just simply bringing them back to the level at which they were at in 2008. And that's really important to say. Will she be able to get the funding? I don't know. But she has said it would be her priority. So we have to wait and see what she'll deliver. And to be honest with you, I could have asked for more. I could have asked for no means test, and many carers would feel there shouldn't be. But what I asked for was something that in the current situation, I believe she can deliver on, because she has already taken the first step. There's 2 more to take. I believe she can take them in the next budget. And then once we get to that level, we need to look at, we spoke about it earlier, individualising carers, the income disregard for carers, so that it's not the family income that's taken into consideration, and looking at the adequacy of carers allowance, because the government's own reports, not any independent reports, but the government commissioned a report on the actual cost of caring, and that varies between about 144 for the most basic to about €300 extra per week. Carers allowance is 236. So that means it doesn't even cover the cost of caring, never mind pay the carer for any work they do. But look, the one thing I can say is that from when I started out on this in the European Parliament with Cathy Sinnott many years ago to now, there has been a greater recognition of the invaluable work that carers do. But recognition is one thing and nice words are another. But actually supporting them with a decent level of carers allowance and with proper respite care so that people get a break, we still have major progress to make on this. I'm hoping that the next budget will be the next step on that journey.
And as was pointed out over the course of COVID many times, claps and recognition don't pay the bills. Marion Harkin, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. That's Deputy Marion Harkin there, Sligo Leitrim and South Donegal TD. It's 13 minutes to 10 o'clock. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
One of Donegal's best-loved family attractions, Oakfield Park, reopens for the season this Wednesday, March the 29th, with acres of parkland, woodlands, lakes, streams and Ireland's longest miniature gauge railway. This Easter, have a day of fun like no other at Oakfield. Follow the clues to find the missing treasure and meet all your favourite characters along the way. The Easter Express will take you through the enchanted forest to Grandmother's Cottage to start the hunt. There's egg and spoon races, a puppet show, a disco in the Dome and so much more, 12 to 6 daily from Friday, April the 7th to Sunday the 10th. Less than 5% of tickets remain. Book now at oakfieldpark.com.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Join me, Marty Friel, this and every Friday night from 8 for Rocking Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. If you're celebrating a birthday or a work night out, Arena 7 Entertainment Complex has it all. Check out arena7.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Ninnis, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Michelle. Just to give me one moment, I was caught slightly on the hop waiting for that weather forecast there, so let's just click in here and grab this weather forecast. I am so organised, it's only wonderful. Okay, weather forecast. Mainly dry and bright to start with sunny spells. The early frost and mist patches will and should have well cleared by now. Cloud gradually increasing though through the day. A few showers possible later on, particularly in far western areas. It'll stay bright with sunny spells in some parts. Highest temperature 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. Light to moderate southeasterly winds, increasing moderate to fresh. Tonight will start mainly dry with cloud thickening from the west. A band of rain that will move right across the region in overnight lows of 3 to 6 degrees. So it won't be quite as cold tonight as it was last night. Now, let's talk about cycling. And it came up briefly in the discussion we had earlier on about those roads, the Mill Road and Swanrun Ballybofey. But we're joined on Zoom, I'm delighted to say, by Niall Fox. Now, Neil, I think it's Neil rather than Niall. Neil joins us. Neil, good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
I take it it's Neil, not Niall?
Niall is Irish for Neil, so
that's for you'll take either. Yeah, it's always difficult. Yeah,
my uncle is Niall, so
okay, that's fair enough. Well, we'll stick with Niall. So, I mean, you are involved with many advocacy bodies, but you're involved in cycle safety, and you're involved in cycle safety for a very personal and tragic reason.
Yes, I think I've been on the show before with Greg a few years ago, and I'm based. Well, I'm complicated. I'm from Dublin, but I'm based in Waterford, but lived in Cork for a good while, so a bit all over the place. So I suppose road safety affects every part of the country. And my sister was killed cycling to work by a delivery lorry in Dublin City in 2016. So it's about 6.5 years ago now. It's kind of always strange as the years add up. In one way, it seems very recent, and other times, it doesn't, like any bereavement, I guess. So I suppose since then I've been involved in different campaigns with the Road Safety Authority, IRVA, and various groups as well, like Dublin Cycling Campaign, Cork Cycling Campaign, and that. But I suppose at the moment I'm looking at a more something that it's across the board, across the country. And that's why I'm trying to reach out to people in all parts, all counties, be it rural or urban areas. And it's to do with policing and cycling, and it's to do with having the same approach throughout the country to, we say, reporting of, for example, the dangerous overtaking of cyclists and things like that on the road. And just before I go further on that, the legislation came in 2019, as similar to what we did call then the minimum passing distance. That's what people more know it as, but the official title is dangerous overtaking of a cyclist or a cyclist. That's not a punishment for drivers. I always try and get that across. And my view with all road safety measures and the different laws that are in and rules of the roads, they're not meant as a punishment. Yes, they're meant as a deterrent, but they're really meant to keep all of us safe on the roads. And like the rhetoric, I'm sure it's the same in Donegal as it is in other parts of the country, is sometimes it can be like, cyclists versus motorists and that. The real reality is that most adult drivers, most adults who cycle also drive and have driver's license and pay motor tax and all the rest of it. So it's not really that argument. Like we should really see, and everyone has sons or daughters or people who cycle. We're all humans on the road, whether we're walking, cycling, or whatever we're doing, But it's to create fairness. And I suppose the positive thing has been in the last couple of years. I should just explain a little bit just on the difficulties. that people are reporting, I suppose, have been in touch with me and others about, have been people who've got who've been near missed, basically, like who have had been nearly knocked off their bikes and things like that. And I suppose that they're reporting of it to guards in different parts of the country, even in the same areas, has got different responses. So you have, we say, a guard in one particular station is very, au fait with the new law and what's involved and how to the reporting of it, and he or she will do it, no problem. And you have other guards who seem to fob them off, because, and I understand why, because I don't agree with it, but I can understand on a human level why sometimes the Gardaí will think that, oh well, maybe there was nobody hurt in this incident. So, do you really want to have to go through all X, Y, Z? But the idea is to prevent crashes on the roads, and it's to improve behaviours. So it is important that even if somebody hasn't been physically injured, that that the guards understand that the law actually doesn't require that. Just to be really boring, because I have it written down, I'm going to read it out just very briefly. This is actually what the law says. A driver shall not overtake or attempt to overtake if to do so would endanger or cause inconvenience to a pedal cyclist. So therefore, it doesn't necessarily require somebody to be actually hit or to be physical contact. It's the endangerment and it's the possibility of a crash.
And what it requires is for the motorist to look at the situation on the road and to make an informed decision based on their observation and based on the situation. Now, you are setting up the cycling engagement group. You're doing this with the backing of Gardaí. You're seeking cycling liaison officers within road policing units, and you're urging cyclists and cycling groups to actually become involved in that process. Tell us briefly about that, because we are coming up close to a break before news.
Absolutely. I'll just give the email to contact me first. Really
perfect.
It's easy to remember. neilfoxcork@gmail.com. So neilfoxcork@gmail.com. And I suppose I'm appealing to all cyclists, especially just the regular commuters, to get in touch. Because we're going to have a couple of meetings with the Assistant Garda Commissioner and other Gardaí, just hybrid meetings, so it will only take an hour out of your day, and it will only be once or twice, and that's to develop then the Assistant Garda Commissioner to bring up her own, to have a body within the Gardaí with specially designated to cycling and cycling safety, because I think it's really important. I think will improve relations and keep our roads a bit safer. So,
and you are getting the backing of the AGSI on this, and they are behind you.
We're very supportive of it. I actually brought the idea to them first before I requested to meet the Assistant Commissioner, who's been quite helpful on it, in fairness to her. And I would hope that once it's trashed out, that it will become a real body, and it might only be required for a couple of years. Hopefully, it won't be required, long term. But it's just to get everybody on board. Will also improve cycling behaviour on the roads, because I really believe that if the average cyclist believes that the guards have their back, that they're more likely to obey maybe some of the rules that they feel are an inconvenience to them as well. So it's improve every situation. And just as well, just while I'm on the air, just as well to say, parking along the roads can be quite dangerous. That we tend to do that sometimes on rural roads as well. We just pull in and we think, we're only going to be a few minutes of that, be it rural roads or urban roads, or in cycle lanes, obviously, but even outside of the official cycle lanes, and that can cause crashes. It's just like, because it means that a bike has to go out into the middle of the road sometimes, and there mightn't be vision. But just to be conscious of all our events and roads. So
absolutely, Neil, it's been a pleasure. neilfoxcork @gmail.com. And people can get you there and join that cycling engagement group for the moment. Neil, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thanks, Donal.
Okay. It's been our pleasure. And that's the first hour of the 9 till noon show done and dusted for this morning. Going to take a short break. Coming up in a few moments, we will have news with Donna Marie Doherty. But before all that, we'll just take the short break.
Do you have a favourite business in Donegal that you absolutely love? If they're your go-to for exceptional service, it's time to give them the recognition they deserve by nominating them for the Highland Radio Customer Service Awards in association with PGIM Ireland.
Our Customer Service Awards celebrate the businesses that go above and beyond to provide exceptional service. This award is a great way to show your appreciation for the businesses that make a difference in your life.
To nominate your favourite business, simply visit highlandradio.com and fill out the nomination form and tell us why you love this business.
The winning business will receive recognition at our special awards ceremony on the 28th of May. Plus, they will have the satisfaction of knowing that they have made a positive impact on their customers.
So don't wait any longer. Nominate your favourite business today. It only takes a few minutes by going to highlandradio.com. Nominations close on Friday the 7th of April.
Foyleside, at the centre of more for your euro, with great value gifts. So it's worth making the journey wherever you live. With convenient parking, late nights and all your favourite brands, you're better off shopping at Foyleside. See foyleside.co.uk.
It's a Tuesday. You're off, but you're not off. You're in town to pick up their kit or do a big shop, and you'd love a bite to eat somewhere. But it's only Tuesday. Well, there's no need to feel guilty about stopping off at Kelly's Diner, because the menu is packed with tasty choices at great value. With fast, friendly service and loads of parking, you can treat yourself any day of the week at the award-winning Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. A sign to warn motorists in Ballybofey of potholes has gained traction on social media over the weekend. It's located on the Mill Road. David O'Driscoll, a local who uses the road daily, says slow repairs are the cause of the damage.
Well, look, you can't say it was a case that, it's been neglected or something. I do think the local authorities are doing all they can to maintain it up to a point. When you get the snow and the frost, etc., obviously it increases the wear and tear on the road and causes it to break up. But I think they're slow to react and repairing it.
Donegal Mountain Rescue responded to a missing person report in the Bluestack Mountains over the weekend. The walker was located safe and well. The DMRT are now appealing for hill walkers to ensure they stick together while trekking. Tom Douglas reports.
On Saturday afternoon at 1:35 p.m, Donegal Mountain Rescue received a call out from AGS Galway for a missing person on Carnaween Mountain in the Blue Stacks. It was established that one member of their group had gone missing after their stop for lunch. Multiple attempts were made to contact the missing person, but to no avail. On arrival, the DMRT fast response team began to sweep the area in groups. A lone walker was spotted descending the hill, and it was established this was their missing walker. The rest of the group were contacted and told to make their descent. The DMRT says a simple misunderstanding occurred, and the person who called in the team did the right thing. The group is again appealing to hill walkers to ensure mobile phones are fully charged, as this will enable a faster rescue should an emergency arise. It's also said moving as a group and accounting for all members before changing location is essential.
Around 600 people attended the first meeting of the reopened Lifford Greyhound Stadium last night. The old facility closed back in August 2019. However, a new consortium has taken over the track, and the official gala opening will take place next Sunday. The reopening is a big boost for the local economy. That's according to General Manager Seamus White.
In terms of the employment for the local area, this generates approximately 70 jobs for the local area as well, so it's bringing something back to the heart of Lifford, and the feedback in that respect as well has been great. And this is just the local crowd. Just wait until next week. We've got a televised meeting. It's going to be on SAS and RPG TV, so I imagine the crowd will be at least doubled, if not a lot more, next week. So the feedback tonight was wonderful.
The government is being told its reforms of the planning system will not work. Much of the delay in building new homes is attributed to the huge backlog in planning systems. A new bill is being put forward to overhaul the judicial review process, but the Irish Planning Institute says more focus should be put on ensuring plans are sound in the first place. Sean O'Leary from the IPI says reform is badly needed, but it cannot be rushed.
What we are concerned about is that what we've seen in the draft bill, some of it hasn't been drafted, it would appear, with the input of practitioners. Certainly we and other people have had concerns that we haven't been involved in drafting the detail of it. And already there is a deficit, for example, of about 540 professionals in the planning system.
The Irish Refugee Council says an all-government action is needed to deal with the refugee crisis. In a new report, the organisation says it saw a sharp rise in demand for its services last year, soaring by 267% on the year before. It's also raising concerns about a deterioration in the rights of those seeking international protection in Ireland, and says that 355 refugees are currently homeless as they were not provided with accommodation by the state. And finally, a further €13 million is being allocated to refurbish eyesores in rural parts of Ireland. Old banks and Garda stations could be transformed under the new Town and Village Renewal Scheme funding. Local authorities can apply for up to €500,000 to buy up to 3 properties to redevelop into community spaces. Almost €150 million has been allocated to more than 1,600 projects under the scheme since its launch in 2016. And now for weather, mainly dry and bright to start today with sunny spells and the early frost and mist patches clearing. Cloud will gradually increase later in the day, highest temperatures of 7 to 10 degrees and light to moderate southeasterly winds increasing to moderate to fresh. That's all for now. We'll be back again with the news headlines at 11 o'clock. And until then, good morning. The obituary notices this Monday morning, March 27th. The death has taken place of Philomena Morrison, 22 Coolnakilla, Ramelton. Remains will repose at her home from 3 p.m. today. Funeral Mass on Wednesday at 11 a.m. in St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen. Burial afterwards in Rathmullen Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on MCN Media. Family time from 10 p.m. until 10 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred in London, England, of Joe Long, formerly of Mina Carriga, Ballybofey. Funeral Mass will take place in London on Wednesday. A memorial Mass will be celebrated in the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorlar, on Wednesday at 10 a.m. The Mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Hugh Hoodie Fisher, Mullavia, Portnew, reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there at 10:15 a.m. tomorrow morning to St Connell's Church, Kilclooney, for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Hugh's Funeral Mass can be viewed live on Shovelin's Funeral Home Facebook page. The death has taken place of Michael Joseph Strain, 223 Ross Sully, Old Town, Letterkenny. Michael's remains will repose in the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountain Top, Letterkenny, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. today. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. per Requiem Mass in St Eunan's Cathedral at 11 a.m, followed by interment in Conwall Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Molly Bourne, Nee Gallen, Rarea New Mills, and formerly of Minaria Killygordon. Remains reposing at her late residence. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 1 p.m. in St Eunan's Cathedral in Letterkenny, with burial afterwards in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family flowers only. Molly's Funeral Mass can be viewed live at churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Mary Ellen Worski, Worski Shop, The Mall, Ramelton, reposing at the family home, Milford Road, Ramelton, today from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. Family time on the morning of the funeral. Rosary both nights at 9 p.m. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in St Mary's Church, Ramelton, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Margaret McGonigal, ní Doherty, O'Gara Villas, Moville. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral arrangements are to be confirmed later. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, donations in lieu if desired, to St Vincent de Paul, Moville, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Ailish Sweeney, ní Conahan, 54 Ard O'Donnell, Letterkenny, reposing at her late residence, with rosary each night at 9 p.m. Funeral from there this morning, going to St Eunan's Cathedral for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family time please on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please and donations in lieu if wished to Mary's Meals, care of Pascal Blake, funeral director. The death has occurred of Rosie Caterson, ní Doherty, Mount Hall, Crossroads, Killygordon, reposing at the family home. Funeral from the family home this morning at 10:30 a.m. for Requiem Mass at 11 in St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The death has taken place in St Celia's, London, England, of Mary Duffy McCoy, formerly Lower Main Street, Letterkenny. Funeral Mass to celebrate Mary's life will take place in St Joseph's Catholic Church, Bromley, London, at 12 noon today and will be streamed live on the parish YouTube channel. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
At McDonald's, we've been making small changes to how we source our food for over 20 years. We serve our Rainforest Alliance assured coffee with our Irish milk. All beef is from Irish farms. And all fish is MSC certified. Which is just a long way of saying we're always improving the sourcing of our ingredients. Because when you change a little, you change a lot.
This is the 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio with Donald Kavanagh. A very good morning to you. It is the second hour of the show, 10 past 10. Let's take a look at some of your comments. In the first hour, we were speaking to Deputy Marion Harkin about her motion that's coming before the Dáil to improve the carers allowance. Caller says, because I received my pension, I was cut to half-rate carers. My husband has Alzheimer's. I am a full-time carer. One caller was asking with regards to children with special needs, because a caller said earlier that they don't qualify for carers allowance because their child was quite ill. Deputy Harkin said that children under 16 carers don't qualify for carers allowance, but they can get other allowances. Another caller then says, yes, you can get allowances for children under 16 as long as you qualify for domiciliary carers allowance, but the advice I would give to anyone wondering about that is contact either your local TD or indeed contact the Citizens Advice Information Centre or go online and get some advice on that, because there is funding, and that's what Deputy Harkin said. Look, if anyone make contact with herself or with their own local TD and they'll explore what options are available if you find yourself in that position. Caller says, I travelled 20 miles a day to care for my sick ageing parents, including hospital visits, travelling to chemists to get prescriptions, food, etc. Got nothing from the state, was told I had to reside with them, and that's the situation that many people do find themselves in. Another caller says if a carer does not live with the person they care for, they can't claim fuel allowance for themselves. Another caller says carers should get the minimum wage, as the allowance isn't enough. If it were treated as a job and got the minimum wage, then things might be better. Another caller says, Caroline says, work 7 days a week. I get a reduced rate. I work part-time because I have children and I have to feed them and look after them. It can't be stated how tiring this is. And Caroline then goes on to say it's true that partners' money should not be brought into this whatsoever, and saying that if you have to take someone on an appointment to Dublin from Donegal, well, you know, €110 won't even cover the cost of that trip, never mind expenses over the course of the rest of the week or whatever. Other issues we spoke in the first hour with regards to those potholes on the Mill Road in the vicinity of Ballybofey, and the fact that a sign went up at the weekend, humorous sign, fasten your brass wraps, take out your dentures, potholes ahead. It was funny, but the point was made that it took a funny sign to get this issue highlighted. Caller says it's all a matter of priority where the money is spent on. There have been some money gone on white elephants in Donegal, the Blaney Bridge being mentioned again. Yet on the rest of Fanad's roads, I've seen more tar in a packet of cigarettes. The authority need to cater for the needs of all road users, not just a few. Now, the Moville Community College, potential good news this morning, we're told, with regards to a new college building. Now, we've heard so much about Moville Community College over the years, and there have been issues with it. Hopefully, there are indications, and all we can say is indications at the moment, that those issues may be on the verge of being resolved. If that is the case, that is excellent, and we will hopefully get confirmation on that. But it is something we're looking into, and hopefully we'll get more clarity on that question. It's 14 minutes past 10. We're going to take a short break. Bingo numbers and all that coming up back after these. So if you're playing Highland Radio NCBI Bingo, remember, just grab your pens, grab your books, and in just a moment, we'll be handing you over to Canis.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 27th of March. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S1. It's game number 13. The numbers are 60, 52, 71, 26, 40, 37, 33, 44, 24, and finally 75. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Hi, Adam Harris here from As I Am, Ireland's national autism charity. Sunday 2nd of April is World Autism Day, and we're asking you to put on your walking shoes and join us for our Same Chance Walk for Autism in Belmont Domain in Greystones. The Same Chance Walk is a great way to show your support by helping to raise much needed funds for our work with autistic children, families and adults. We all deserve the same chance in life, but autistic people face barriers that others don't. Please help us to remove these barriers. Join us on the 2nd of April. Sign up today at asiam.ie.
Save hundreds of euros on custom charges shopping online with Space Hub Dairy. We provide a full virtual office address mailbox service for all your business and personal use. Save your business hundreds, possibly thousands, on custom charges with Space Hub Dairy. Call 048 7187 8077 for more details.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
16 minutes past 10 o'clock. During the paper review, we spoke about the Kerry Babies case. I did say that I am of an age that I was in college, and 1920 when this became the biggest story in the country, and it's a story that certainly has stayed with me and has stayed with many, many people, I think, for the decades since, when you look back on the whole Kerry Baby story and say, how did that happen? It was just a very, very strange time in Ireland socially, as well as that particular story. It has to be said there were some other rather horrendous stories broke around that sort of same period in the early 80s as well. Well, Tom Inglis is a sociology professor in University College in Dublin. He now joins us on Zoom. Tom, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah.
So you wrote
just to follow up on that. I mean, I was in the States when the Kerry Baby story broke, and I was writing about the things like the power of the Catholic Church, and I was particularly interested in the way about sexual repression. So I came at this story in relation, because I thought it was weird that an extramarital affair in which a woman was deliberately not using contraceptives, and I thought this is a very interesting story, and it explains to me, or shone a light on me, on how kind of weird and different Irish society was from the States, which I had experienced, if you like, a much more openly sexual society. And I began to, think about it, and then I began to study it. And then I realized it was about so much more. I mean, it wasn't just about, in a way, the Catholic Church plays a part, but because of the abortion referendum, etc. But that's in the background. And they don't actually get involved in any kind of moral condemnation of Joanne Hayes. But I began to realize it was about a story about Ireland. And, one of the things that, as a sociologist, you can get people and you can just kind of bewilder them with theories and facts, but it's much better to tell a story. And in the same way, when I grew up in the 1950s, I heard these stories about the Holocaust, and I had no idea. And then slowly but surely, I realized that the Holocaust was the biggest story to have happened in 20th century in the world. But I think, and without making any kind of injudicious comparisons. But there is the reason why we come back to the Kerry babies, because it was a watershed. Things happened then that have not happened since. When I explained to my daughter, who and she's just goes, and she's now in her 30s, and she grew up. She was born in 1988, and she just can't get her head around. And so I think there is this kind of thing of her by, we're saying to young people, you've got to understand that if you want to understand what happened in Ireland in the 1980s, the best way to do it is to understand this weird, wild, incomprehensible story about what happened to Joanne Hayes.
I have colleagues here in the newsroom who were not born when that happened. I am substantially the oldest person in this department, and as I say, I was in college when all this was happening, so I was very aware of it. And I was trying to explain to one of my colleagues there on Friday, when this all started to break on Friday. I said, here's what happened. I said, in a nutshell, as far as I recall it, in a nutshell, this baby's body was found horribly mutilated on a beach in County Kerry. Gardaí sat down and made a list of all the pregnant women in the area and tried to figure out which of those pregnant women might have been the child's mother. Eventually, they focused on a young lady called Joanne Hayes, who lived, about 80 kilometres, 50 miles away, as it would have been at the time. She was pregnant. She was unmarried. She had given birth to a baby, but someone, a Garda, if I recall, came up with a theory of, if I'm pronouncing it right, superfecundity. And the theory was that she had had sex with two men in quick succession and gave birth to twins by two different fathers.
Well, that was developed in the tribunal. What happened to when they were looking around, and it was, when people say it was a witch hunt, the idea that there was local Gardaí started to do this investigation. They went out looking for a woman who'd been pregnant and who was no longer pregnant, giving birth. And there was and then they decided, hey, look, we're not moving anywhere. So they bring down the murder squad. Like, the murder squad were the elite. These were the people who were interrogating the provisionals and Republicans, and they wouldn't talk. And they had developed ways and means of getting hardened criminals, hardened Republicans to talk, to confess. Just so happens that three of these guys are from Kerry. So they see, this as this idea of a baby being stabbed to death as a blot on the Kerry, kind of reputation and honour. So they decide, we'll go down and we'll sort this out. So they go down and they hear about Joanne Hayes. They go out to the farm and they find Joanne Hayes, and they bring her in and have the rest of the family. And within 24 hours, they've all confessed to having stabbed this baby, to having dumped the baby in the sea. The baby gets washed up in Carsiveen, and all done and dusted, and off they go. And the only problem then was that they eventually persuaded her sister to. Joanne was in custody, and the guards go out and they find a baby on the farm. Oh, right. So then they decided that the baby had twins, because it could not be possible that she had confessed and her family had confessed to a crime that they didn't commit, because that would have been a blur on the reputation of the guards. So they decided, okay, here, what we're going to do now is we have to come up with a theory. And the theory, as you said, is that Joanne Hayes had sex with 2 different men. That's okay. Well, no problem. She gave birth to twins. Problem. The twins are a different blood group. What? The twins are a different blood group. So what does that mean? Well, that means that she must have had, to have given birth to twins, she must have had sex with 2 different men. But and so the one baby's is a blood group, and the other one's a blood. Well, she has to have done this within 48 hours. Oh, so she's going around. She's madly in love with this guy Jeremiah Locke. She's engaged in a kind of a competition to have more children with him than he is having with his wife, which is one of the reasons I got interested in the case. And then the guards came up with no. What happened was that she had twins with 2 different men, and so that she was kind of this wanton woman who was going around Kerry having sex with anybody and everybody she could find. And of course, the DPP, kind of said, okay, this is dodgy, and withdrew the case when it came to. And again, it was only because of 2 things. One was the investigative reporters, the media, that they picked up in the case. And the second thing we must remember, if the twins had been of the same blood group, then Joanne Hayes would have been incarcerated, and she would have had and the whole family would be have lived with this shame. So it was pure chance that it was different, but it wasn't pure chance that the media, not the state, but the media came in and said, something's gone wrong here. Something, why was this case withdrawn? And that was those 2 things were pivotal in this story to emerge, which is still for me, in the latter half, how Ireland changed in the latter half of the 20th century. The Kerry babies shines a huge light on how different Ireland is today compared to what it was then.
But it shows how long it took, because Joanne Hayes formally received a formal apology and a settlement of 2.5 million from the state, not a year after this, not 2 years after this, not 10 years after this, but in 2020. Effectively more than almost 40 years after the events, Joanne Hayes finally got an apology and recompense for what she went through.
I mean, there's many different stories you can tell about this. One is I go on about the honour and respect of the guards, the honour and respect of the family, but for me, I spent a lot of my life trying to understand what the Catholic Church did to me. Now, the Catholic Church has done many wonderful things, but it made me and a lot of other generations sexually repressed. And now I'm in my 70s and I'm trying to understand what that was about. But this is not just a question about what the Catholic Church. It's also a question, in a weird way, about what the state can do to you. Now, we don't have a theory of the state. We go on about what the church did to us. But in a way, what happened in there was the guards came down, extracted a confession. Then the state set up a tribunal. Well, the tribunal was, in a way, another form of a witch hunt. You had all these men gathered in this courtroom, interrogating this woman as if she was some kind of witch.
Yeah.
And then the state, in the sense of the judiciary, Judge Kevin Lynch writes a report which says that the guards gilded the lily. They were, they exaggerated, whereas the Hayes family were wanton liars. So, and now what's happening, to my mind, is that, there is, after all this time, there is not just about, a vindication of what happened to to Joanne Hayes, but there's also that the state is trying to, if you like, clear up its mess. And I think there is, I don't know what's happening at the moment, but having put so much time and effort into, pursuing this case, and as everybody's saying now about, getting justice for baby John. This is the Cahersiveen baby.
Yeah.
It may well be about that, but it's also about the state saying, yes, we messed up, and now we are repairing the damage. So in a way, this couple or whatever happened is a kind of becomes a scapegoat for the state to say, yes, as a state we messed up, And we messed up from, not just the guards, the judiciary, but also the government in the way that it didn't, as you said, apologise, quickly enough.
But even the truth of it is, though, even if what's happening at the moment, even if this fresh investigation, and we'll park the people who have been arrested for this moment in time, because obviously we've got to park that. But the Gardaí now do have, we are led to believe, good, clear DNA samples from Baby John. They have scientific samples, DNA that was not available to them at the time. Even if they do establish the parentage of Baby John, even if they can absolutely establish that woman A and man B are the parents of Baby John, that is still a million miles away from in any way coming to a theory of how did Baby John meet his death, because you cannot extrapolate, well, they're the parents, therefore you cannot make that leap. You still do not know.
And dare I say it, the horrible thing is we're going to have to rely on confessions, as in the original case, because I don't think there's any, if you like, even good circumstantial evidence, right? I mean, let alone that's something that would prove beyond reasonable doubt, which you need in a criminal court case, is highly unlikely. So all of this is, in a way, is about trying to tie up loose ends. So there were so many loose ends to the Kerry babies, and this is an attempt, if you like, to square the circle. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure if that can be done, and I'm not sure if it'll serve any great purpose at this stage. I do feel, the only thing I feel is that once again, it raises, for Joanne Hayes, who has had to live with this, it raises, oh my God, here I go again. I know, is there any chance? And I think that that's an unintended consequence, which is I do feel that in another way that it justifies that all the time she said, I wasn't. And now we've moved the case is away from her over to Cara Silveen and what happened in that time. I sometimes ask myself, why is this all happening? And I think, just to go back to the point that you said earlier, one of the things is that if the state could have said, I'm sorry, we see this in medical negligence cases, they drag on for years and just nobody said sorry. And I mean, for me, one of the things, there was one of the detectives in the Kerry babies, before the DNA stuff came out, said, repeatedly said on public radio, on the airwaves, that he was convinced that Joanne Hayes. So that hurt continued on for a long time afterwards, every time it came up. So I don't think there was any peace and quiet for Joanne Hayes, and that's one of the unfortunate things that happens when you become, like you're living and then suddenly all hell breaks loose.
And we know she has been an intensely private person over the years, and she has not. Did you get to speak to her? Your own book was Truth, Power and Lies. In terms of your writing, did you get to speak to the people at the centre of this? Did you get to speak to Joanne Hayes?
No, I didn't. And she was, and I got, Pat Mann, her solicitor. And again, I spent 10 years, obsessed with this. And of course I would have loved, I mean, there are loose ends still. What happened in the family farm that night, and there's a lot of speculation, and of course only Joanne Hayes knows. But and I admire her, because I'm sure she could have got a lot of money as well as for telling her side of the story. There's still documentaries being made about the Kerry babies. I mean, there has been by RTÉ, there's others in the pipeline. So this story, whether it becomes a film or whether it becomes it'll go on for definite. And yes, none of the guards would talk. I mean, this is the one of the things I'm about this, how tight-knit the guards were. They one for all for one. They all told the same story. They all went into the tribunal, man after man, and said the exact same things. And it was a fabrication. Something happened that this family confessed to crimes in detail, in minute details, with fantastical journeys made, to tie up the loose ends, and it was all a fabrication. And to say that, and Justice Lynch to say that that the Hayes family made up these stories to satisfy the guards. That had nothing got to do with intimidation, nothing, and that then the guards, none of them would come out and say, this is what happened in that station that night. So there is always this sense of cover-up, of the honor and reputation of the guards, that nobody has broken the silence.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that happens in a legal situation when we live in a legal society, that nobody can confess and say, sorry, this is what happened, I'll be honest.
And we are now at the point. We are now at the point where what happened in that room. It was almost 40 years ago when it happened. It happened in 1984. That's 36 odd years ago. Now I don't know the people that were in the room at the time, but I mean, one would presume that at least some of the Gardaí who may have been involved in that may have passed away since then. I think it's probably a fair assumption to make that at least some may have passed away. If that's the case, we've sometimes seen in tribunals in the past. That you effectively, and forgive the bluntness with which I say this, you blame it on the dead guy.
And there was a certain element of that. One of the senior lead detectives in the case blamed the head, Courtney, and said that he wanted to go out and search in the field, and if they had found the baby in the field, the whole thing would have been dropped. But because because internal blame, I wanted to do it, no, but it was his fault, etc. But it is that sense of there was somebody in Kerry knew what happened to that baby. Now, mightn't have been the parents, as you say, it might be somebody else, but somebody else in there did stab that baby 28 times and broke its neck, and they have been willing to stand idly by while all of this shame and all of this hurt was caused to Joanne Hayes. That's where there is a guilt. That somebody has left Joanne Hayes out to dry. They never said, even anonymously wrote and said, I am this is, or whatever. But I mean, of course, and when I started to do this case, and somebody said to me, there are so many skeletons in so many cupboards in Ireland that people will not talk to, and they will not talk to you about them, and they will not tell you the truth about what happened. And I think that's why we don't get apologies, because an apology suggests that you were guilty or that you did something wrong. So all the time we can't say sorry, or it took the state so long to say, look, I'm sorry, Joanne, I'm sorry.
Tom Inglis, your own book is Truth, Power and Lies. It's as I said, it is, for people who are new to this, it's a very important part in our history, and maybe an understanding of what happened back then, and hopefully, if it is possible to get closure on what happened back then, would be even better. But understanding of what happened in the 80s and before that is maybe a key part of understanding who we are as a society and maybe where we came from as a society. And it's something that we can't just put to one side and pretend it didn't happen, because the Kerry babies happened, Grenard happened, and Lovett happened, and that there are many things like that happened, and they are a part of our history, and it's a complex and complicated history, and books like your own hopefully help us make some sort of sense of it. But for the moment, Tom Inglis, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Pleasure.
Thank you. That's Tom Inglis there. He is, as we say, a professor of sociology at UCD in Dublin. His book on the Kerry babies case, Truth, Power and Lies. Now, a caller has asked, with DNA, etc., can the baby's mother be identified now? That potentially may be the case, and that's what Gardaí are trying to do at the moment. But as we said in our conversation with Tom there, we cannot make that leap and say, if we identify who the parents are, and let's be honest, we can't just say, can the baby's mother be identified now? Let's say, can the baby's parents be identified now? Because there was a man involved in this as well, and God knows, and it was interesting when Tom said at the tribunal, man after man after man walked in, and I think that's a very telling phrase, because this was a story in which a myriad of men in various uniforms all ganged up to blame something on one woman. And I think we cannot lose sight of that truth.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25,000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Go full Lidl for the perfect Easter dinner. Our Board B approved deluxe Irish stuffed Carvery leg of lamb, $17.99 per kilo. And a bottle of our award-winning Saint-Emilion Grand Cru from Bordeaux was $14.99, now $7.99. In stores March 30th. Go on. Go full Lidl this Easter. Get the facts by Drinkaware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
Over time, it's natural for your hearing not to be as clear as it once was. The good news is, advances in hearing aid technology may offer different solutions. Sabrina Robb here from Donegal Hearing Clinic. We provide peace of mind with hearing issues that affect people of all ages. Contact us for a consultation at Donegal Hearing Clinic on 07491 88470 or visit donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Are you ready to experience something extraordinary? Cultural gems in Croatia, ancient temples in Asia, art in Italy. Anything and everything is possible with Travel Department. Pick a destination and a date and we'll take care of everything. Flights, accommodation, excursions, expert local guides and all that planning. For guided group tours to dream destinations, book today at traveldepartment.com and check out our special offers. Irish owned and operated for over 25 years. Travel Department. Let's see more.
It's the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. If you listen to news and indeed listen to the show over the past number of months, you'll be aware that there are serious questions with regards to the future of the local health centre in Lettermecca Ward. We know that the GP who previously worked in the health centre in Lettermecca Ward is now based in Glenties, and people from Lettermecca Ward have got to travel to Glenties to avail of that service. A petition has now been started in Lettermecca Ward to get this situation resolved. I'm joined on the line by Brenda Burns, a member of the Lettermecca Ward Health Centre Action Group. Brenda, good morning.
Good morning, Donald. How are you?
Very well indeed, thanks. It's great to speak to you this morning. We know that this has been an issue for a while. The HSC took a decision because of concerns over the state of the building in November that it was no longer fit for use. The big question now, of course, is when will we see it renovated, made fit for purpose, and bring a local GP back to Lettermecca Ward again?
Well, that's exactly it, yeah. The health centre was closed on the 18th of November, temporary closure. A report carried out last summer deemed the centre to be unsuitable. There was a few grounds mentioned in that report that made it unsuitable, and so a letter was sent to patients in early November that the health centre at Lettermecca Ward would close from the last day would be the 18th of November, temporary closure, and that they were keeping the situation under review, and there's been very little communication since, just that the situation is under review. It's a vital service in our community.
Now, the HSC are telling you, and indeed they're telling us as well, that there are what they're calling significant deficits and significant investments will be required to bring the building in line with current standards. Now, there is no indication yet coming from the HSC as to when that significant investment is going to be made available and when those significant deficits are going to be addressed. The worry, I'm sure, is going to be that this is going to be put on the long finger, stay on the long finger, and it could be a substantial period of time before we actually see anything happen here.
Yeah, indeed, that is a huge worry for the community in Lettermecca Ward. There is a fantastic GP service being operated out of the primary care centre in Glenties by Dr. Charlie McManus. However, our health centre in Lettermecca Ward is a vital vital service, that the health centre would be opened. We have a GP service, as I say, operating out of Glenties, that would be vital. That service is restored to Lettermach Ward. I can't remember a time ever when we didn't have a GP in situ in the health centre, Lettermach Ward. Yeah, we haven't seen that report yet. We are hoping to be able to access that report shortly, and in conjunction then with the petition, we will decide where to go from there. But I think the petition we have over 400 signatures at the moment, and there is a real hunger for that service to be restored to Lettermach Ward. But yes, there is definitely a fear. At the moment, we're working with the HSE. We hope to work with them in the future to try and either refurbish the health centre that is there, or identify a new site for a new health centre. But whichever is the option, that we would have the health centre restored to Lettermach Ward, and that Dr. Charlie McManus would operate out of the health centre in Letcher.
In terms of the ultimate decisions, as you say, the HSE locally being supportive, and no one doubts the bona fides of the HSE on the ground in Donegal. The question, of course, is very often these decisions aren't made by people on the ground who know Lettermach Ward. These decisions are made by effectively bean counters in Dublin.
Absolutely, and that's why the public meeting was called, because I'm just one of a very large community, and we wanted to see what the public support was. That meeting was very well attended, and obviously there is an absolute hunger there. There are issues with, as I say, a fantastic service being provided in Glenties by Charlie and his staff, absolutely amazing, but that involves travelling, and for some people that's not an issue, but for others it is, who would have been able to access the service in Lettermach Ward, the health centre, by walking to it, or travelling to it would have been a lot easier. Now they're having, some people are having to pay for transport, and we just don't have that vital service in terms of, even emergencies. We don't have that vital service in the village, which we have. I always remember there being a GP in situ in that health centre. But yes, I think the idea of the petition was to convince the HSE and let them see that Lettermach Ward, we really, really, really need this vital service restored to the area. And the petition was just the first step in getting that service restored. But we very much are looking forward to working with the HSE to restore the health centre that is there already. And that petition, as you say, available in local shops around the area. You're also looking at you're looking at developing an online presence, and steps are being taken to actually put that into action. Yeah, we have a Facebook page launched, Lettermach Ward Action Group. And Lettermach Ward Health Centre Action Group, and we've just basically, that's for information, because I think information is key in situations like this. And a letter did issue to patients back in November, and since then we all accept that these things don't move quickly, they move slowly, but just, I suppose, in keeping especially more vulnerable members of the community up to date with what is actually happening, because as well as being a vital resource and a vital service to the area, it is also rural communities need these sort of services to be retained in the community, because rural society depends on these. We had the Lettermach Ward 9 years ago. We had to fight to keep our post office. So, it's keeping these services. And as I say, primary care centres are fantastic. And the service that has been provided in Glenties is absolutely amazing. But it's not in Lettermach Ward. And that's where we need it to be, from transport and point of view, and from even, as I say, from an emergency point of view, we need that to be in the village. Brenda Burns of the Lettermach Ward Health Centre Action Group, thanks for speaking to us this morning. The petition, as we said, available in local shops. Go online as well on Facebook, Lettermach Ward Health Centre Action Group. Get involved if you're in the area, and make contact with them. Brenda, we'll be speaking again in the future, I have no doubt. But in the meantime, thank you very much indeed. Thanks a million, Donald. Thanks for your time. Our pleasure. That's Brenda there in Lettermach Ward. Just a few of your comments before we go to a break. We were speaking earlier with regards to cyclists, and a caller says, race cyclists holding up traffic by riding two abreast on the road. What my partner and I do now is we walk two abreast in cycle lanes. Let's see how they like it. Whatever. Looking at the INMO, actually, no, just on cyclists, another caller said, cyclists should show some respect for drivers. A lot of the time they're cycling two abreast and drivers can't get by. As a driver living in a rural area, what are the rules in the sense of how many cyclists can cycle side by side? Quite often they come around a corner, there are two or three cyclists together side by side.
and that's an issue that's been raised by a few people. And it does bear maybe mentioning that sometimes cycling issues in Dublin are different to cycling issues in rural areas. In rural areas, there is one issue in an urban area like Dublin. It can be a very different issue indeed. But that is it's a fair point. Now, INMO have just given us the figures for their trolley watch numbers of people awaiting beds this morning. As of 8 o'clock this morning, there were 44 admitted patients at Letterkenny University Hospital without beds. Of those, 15 were on trolleys in the emergency department and 29 were elsewhere in the hospital in inappropriate settings, be it trolleys, be it unattended beds, be it chairs, whatever. So 44 the number of people in Letterkenny University Hospital without beds this morning. Take a short break. Back after this.
Ready for a change or upgrade? Think Seat. With our wide range of award-winning Seat SUV, including the bold crossover Arona, the family favourite Ateca, or the spacious 7-seater Tarraco. All vehicles come with great offers on finance and PCP options. Book a test drive today by calling DMG Motors on 074 97 21 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie. Choose your new 231 Seat with confidence with a visit to DMG Motors, Clara Road, Donegal Town.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny are proud to announce that they're now stocking Riker footwear. Riker blend fashionable styles with incredible comfort, striking the perfect balance between fashion and practicality. All Riker shoes are made using unique anti-stress and anti-shock technology to provide the essential support and comfort the brand is known for. Try any of the new season Riker shoes now at Green Shoes, Market Square, Letterkenny.
Inishowen Credit Union have recently launched Cultivate, an agricultural loan at only 6.55%, APR 6.75%. Call any of their 4 offices for more information or to make an appointment. Inishowen Credit Union, Buncrana, Carndona, Moville and Muff, supporting local farmers. Inishowen Credit Union is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Mainly dry and bright with sunny spells. Any early frost and mist patches will be well cleared by now. Cloud gradually increasing through the day with a few showers possible, particularly in western parts. And that's pretty much here, folks. Staying bright with sunny spells. The further east you go, top temperatures today 7 to 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, light to moderate southeasterly winds, and they'll increase moderate to fresh. That's the situation with the weather on this Monday morning. Now, shocking video footage emerged showing a family of 8 being evicted without notice from rented accommodation just days before St. Patrick's Day. The Brazilian-Portuguese couple evicted from their Donegal home were told that their children could be taken from them. Their father would be arrested for burglary. He was accused of stealing and taking drugs by a group of men who came unannounced to evict them after dark. Now we're joined on the line by a councillor, Sinead Maguire of Fine Gael, who has taken an interest in this. Councillor Maguire, good morning.
Good morning.
You've taken an interest in this issue. You're based in Sligo yourself, Sinead. This was a horrendous incident by all accounts.
Yes, it is. I am in contact with the family because they're now being sheltered in Sligo, and that's how I got involved with it. But as you rightly said, they were evicted from a house in Bundoran completely illegally. There was no notice given whatsoever. They had signed a contract actually for 3 years, but were not given a copy of that contract. As you say, 2 men came in the back door, 2 men came in the front door at the same time. This is a family with 6 children, all under the age of 9 years old. I cannot believe and I cannot imagine how incredibly frightening and intimidating it must have been for them. The mother took the children upstairs and kept them in a bedroom while the 4 men packed up all of their belongings into black refuse bags and put them outside on the road in the rain, while the landlord proceeded to change the lock on the house so that they would no longer have the key. They were threatened that the water and electricity would be turned off. There were numerous allegations and threats thrown at them, which is ironic given the completely unlawful nature of what was happening to them.
Is there any legal action been taken on this? Because, as you say, not only is this morally reprehensible by all accounts, but it also is, given that there is an eviction ban in place in this country, at least until March 31st, what happened here was illegal.
Everything about it, though, is illegal, Donald. It really doesn't relate to the eviction ban. This is a landlord who decided to take matters into his own hands completely. He didn't provide them with a contract. He didn't give them notice. There's supposed to be a court process if you want to take back your property. That wasn't done. The Gardaí are supposed to be notified that wasn't done. He would have a right to appeal to the RTB. Now, he has taken that measure, but, that could take a year to get a resolution, and there is a maximum fine of €30,000 for that. But, that's really cold comfort to a family of 8 who now find themselves homeless.
Does that then call into question what the efficacy of the legislation we have is at the moment? Because we can speak on the radio of how this was wrong, this was terrible, this was awful, but the fact is it happened, and the family who were evicted at this point in time are in emergency shelter and are not in what they thought was their home.
No, absolutely not. Initially, Donald, when I looked at this, I thought that perhaps that we needed greater Garda input. But I've subsequently discovered that there is a policy document on repossession and evictions, which sets out very clearly the steps that the Gardaí are supposed to take in these cases. Now, unfortunately, in this case, there were 2 separate calls put into the Garda. And these people, they're not native to Ireland. They're Brazilian and Portuguese couple. They're not familiar with our laws. This incredible event happened to them, and their first instinct was to call the guards. But the guards didn't intervene, although this policy document, it does ask them to carry out a risk assessment. It asks them to look at the legality of the repossession. It asks them to consider human rights concerns that are involved. And most particularly in this case, it refers to where there are children and vulnerable people that they need to be considered, particularly given their lack of ability to understand the process and procedures. So unfortunately, while that policy is in place and it refers to 5 different acts that would be covered, would cover this sort of what was absolutely illegal event, there was very little actual care given to this family.
Is this an indictment then of a system which claims to be geared toward caring for people, but ultimately appears to be, on the face of it, in this instance, at the very least, utterly and completely ineffective?
On this case, yes. I think this is, unfortunately, it's very timely, and we are now looking at a period where we have an eviction ban being lifted. And I would just hate to think that landlords thought that this sort of behaviour was acceptable or would be tolerated by any of the authorities. It's completely unlawful, and it should not be tolerated, and we need to protect people from this sort of incredible the video. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it really is shocking to see a family literally put out on the street in the dark, in the rain, their belongings put into black bags. They were told that a hotel room was booked for them. That was nonsense. There was no hotel room booked for them. Their belongings were actually withheld from them for a number of days before they got them back. And as I say, there are 6 children here, Donald, going down as far as 11 months old. It's just unconscionable that somebody, that 4 grown men thought that this was okay to do this to a family.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the legal repercussions will be and what supports and what comforts are given to this family. But certainly at this point in time, it's an ongoing story. But Councillor Sinead Maguire, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. What's your view on this? You can contact us, text us 086 60 25,000, WhatsApp message us on that number as well, or you can call us. The number here on Highland is 074 91 25,000. Going to take a short break. We'll have the 11 o'clock headlines after these.
At Very, we deliver everything you need and more, with over 70,000 products and free home delivery. Freshen up your family's wardrobe at prices you love. Get the very latest inspiration for your great outdoors. Level up your sports gear with the very biggest brands. With Very's choice across fashion, home, toys, gifts, beauty and electricals, you can choose the brands you love and we will deliver them for free. Shop now at very.ie. Free delivery excludes large items.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny Clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who aren't able to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
Are you still struggling with slow and unreliable broadband? Imagine is connecting thousands of homes to high-speed broadband in your area right now. So why wait? With Imagine rated excellent by Trustpilot, you'll soon be working from home with ease, streaming your favourite shows and sports uninterrupted. Join the thousands of connected homes and businesses today at imagine.ie. Service subject to availability, terms and conditions apply.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Great moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitArdsandNorthdown.com/offers.
This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. It's 11 o'clock, time for headlines, and we say good morning to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. Chairperson of the MICA Action Group says government have a decision to make regarding changing the cycle of not listening to homeowners affected by defective blocks. Lisa Hone says government has recently received a number of submissions regarding draft regulations from homeowners and that 84% of homeowners surveyed are going to vote in the next election based on the outcome of the 100% redress campaign. A sign to warn motorists of potholes in Ballybofey has gained traction on social media over the weekend. David O'Driscoll, who uses the road daily, says slow repairs are the cause of the damage. Cahirlock of the Lifford-Stranorlar Municipal District, Patrick McGowan, responded saying there is an urgency to get the road included on the road programme and that ongoing temporary fixes are frustrating for locals and workmen alike. On Saturday afternoon past, Donegal Mountain Rescue received a call out for a missing person on the Carnaween Mountain in the Blue Stack Mountain Range. The walker was located safe and well. However, the rescue group are appealing to hill walkers to ensure that mobile phones are fully charged, as it will enable a faster rescue should an emergency arise. 44 patients in Letterkenny University Hospital are waiting on beds. That's according to this morning IMNO figures. 15 of those are in the emergency department, while the remaining 29 are in wards elsewhere. There are 709 people on trolleys nationwide, which according to INMO General Secretary Phil Nishida cannot continue. And finally, around 600 people attended the first meeting of the reopened Lifford Greyhound Stadium last night. The old facility closed back in August 2019. However, a new consortium has taken over the track and the official gala opening will take place next Sunday. The reopening is a big boost for the local economy, which is according to General Manager Seamus White. That's all for now. Donal will be back again with more news headlines at 12 o'clock.
Think you know Disney Plus? Think again. Stream everything from comfort classics like Ratatouille.
Anyone can cook.
Yeah, anyone can. That doesn't mean that anyone should.
to sizzling hot dramas like The Bear.
Time to try the new sandwiches.
What do you think? It's redundant and white, just like you.
Heard.
Think you know Disney Plus? Think again. 18 plus subscription required. T's and C's apply.
It's the third hour of the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Donald with you until 12 midday. The carers were told they would get a contributory stamp a few years ago. This was promised by Leo Varadkar when it was announced they would get the €1,000 bonus. Nothing's been done since. The stamp hasn't materialised. No mention of it now either. Carers saved the state an estimated €20 billion per year. So says a caller. Right. The DL debate tonight will be having much discussion, and I'm sure a lot of discussion about what's been happening behind the scenes in Donegal GAA, as well as what's been happening on the pitch. The main headline that's happened on the pitch in the past number of days, unfortunately, is that Donegal has, let's be honest, as expected, been relegated to Division 2 of the National League. We're joined on the line by Brendan Devaney, the presenter of the DL debate. Brendan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Don.
Brendan, it's going to be a compelling listen tonight, but maybe not the conversation we wanted to be having.
Yes, well, first of all, Don, Oisín's sitting in for me tonight. I'm taking my wee nephew, Ethan, up to Ireland and France. So I did a wee sit-in for Oisín yesterday. My first ever commentary, Don, not the favorite game to do it on, but anyway, I helped Oisín out yesterday, so he's going to sit in. But I have interviews and that lined up for him with the likes of Paddy McBurney, our captain, and with Aidan O'Rourke. And I also got a long interview with Peter Campbell of the Democrat, just to sum up the mood in Donegal at the minute and the management and where we go from here. And also a few other interviews this evening across all the action of the weekend.
Now, fair play to Paddy McBurney, actually. He's come out very strongly over the past 24 hours saying, look, we're not where we want to be, but we're united as a team. We're working together as a team. We stand proud as a team and we go forward as a team. He's very much saying, look, I mean, you know, whatever else may be going on around the place, the team is committed and the team is united.
Yeah, and listen, I suppose Patrick maybe picked me up on the question, and you'll hear it later, Donal, when I said to him about being together, and he says that group of players is together. It wasn't the dressing room that I'm talking about being together, Donal. It meant tactically on the pitch and as a formation and as a team. Listen, every team now, Donal, plays with a counter-attacking system. They drop players back. They play, you try and take your man to man, but then you protect the space, and then you break forward, and more than that, you defend as an entire team, and you move forward as an entire team. There was neither of that happening last week or this week, Donal, and that's what I'm afraid. And listen, Patrick's captain, I have massive respect for the man. I hated even asking him those types of questions yesterday, but leading into Down, Donal, at the minute, you know, if we had one area of our pitch correct, or if we had something to work on, but at the minute, you know, everything is an issue with us. I mean, we were hammered again yesterday, 21-9. We were hammered last week. And there's been a couple of halves throughout the league where we did play a bit of football, but it's just as we go down to the end of it. Now, I know we had injuries and people missing and people pulled out in that yesterday, and it was people making debuts, and there was a lot of new players there, though. But you just think of the Down people must be sitting looking at those last two performances, saying this is a brilliant time to play Donegal.
But then again, as you say, it's down in the preliminary round of the championship. That's just a few short weeks away at this stage. Now, obviously, it's not the preparation Donegal wanted, but it's the preparation Donegal has had. I mean, do you see any chance that Donegal can regroup, reunite, and go into that Down game with at least more confidence than they may have had in the past couple of weeks, and with more drive and with more spirit, that maybe we can look and say a lot of people are going to think that Down game is now a foregone conclusion? Perhaps it isn't.
Certainly it isn't, Donal. Listen, bro, I'm a Donegal fan. Obviously, I play for them and I support them, and I know what the lads go through. And I'm wild positive, Donal. I'm wild. You've probably heard me over the years criticising negative football and wanting players to express themselves and go and attack and open up and play. And savage pride for Donegal. But listen, I have to be realistic as well as someone that goes and analyses games. Donal, if we sail into the championship like this, we'll be hammered. Down will beat us for a start. And if we go into the group stage is playing like they do now, we'll be absolutely annihilated. I mean, Roscommon rang changes yesterday. They were playing in second gear, really, and they toyed with us, you know. So how we pull that together, Donald, this is one of the biggest jobs I've ever seen. Now, don't get me wrong, Donald, we went bad at times in Donegal, and there was bad performances in games, but there was always enough kind of players, and they thought if we get the right management, we get our act together again, we can compete. Like, at the minute, we're not competing at all, and whether the management even stay on now is questionable. I mean, Paddy Carr stepped away, and Aidan took over as a manager, and I know there's only like a matter of days in between times, but he said himself he wasn't going to stay on unless he got a reaction. Well, he definitely didn't get that reaction yesterday. That was one of the worst I've ever seen Donegal. So whether he stays in charge or not is still a big question mark. I know Fergus McGee is talking to him. You know, so what happens to Donegal now getting into the championship? There's questions everywhere going, and that's outside of all the other turmoil. So I hate bringing all this up, though, but just at the minute, I'm talking to people. I'm looking for something to grab a hold of to build into the championship. And listen, I'm glad our captain's come out and has been bullish. I mean, he's an absolute star and a hero to so many, Patrick McBurdy. I mean, if we could get him fit, that would be a huge starting point. But, you know, he had a real bad injury here.
There is no doubt that 2023 is going to be a watershed for GAA in Donegal, in the same sense that there was a watershed when Jim McGuinness took over, and it became quite clear when Jim McGuinness took over that he was looking for a new direction, and he said to the team, if you come with me, I will take you places you can only dream of up to now. Is there a thing, can we make this into a positive in that, okay, Donegal is down at the moment, but you've got your Patrick McBurdy there, you've got that spirit there, you've got people there who want to play for the jersey, you've still got that huge pride in Donegal, that huge pride in Donegal GAA, that if we can get the right management team in and the right vision for the coming months, okay, maybe 2023 is the year we've put down as the educational one, it's the year that we don't have the success, but hey, better things can happen in 24.
Listen, I totally agree, Donald, and I always would look to that side of things. It's just if you look now to the immediate time, because we're not sure who's going to be in charge, and because our last, particularly, I mean, we're relegated on 3 points, though, because our last couple of performances were so inept, you're kind of looking to say, right, where are we going or what's happening? And in many ways, when you throw back to last year, we were also final last year, we very easily could have won an also championship. So people think of what has happened now, and it's been a catalogue of things that have led to it. Then, of course, we had the academy in the background. But, you know, Declan Bonner was singled out. You mentioned previous managers here, you know, for serious stinging abuse last year. I'm sure Declan Bonner's sitting back thinking, now, look at the job that I was doing. Like, people have got to be careful, and I think people are overcritical at times. But at the minute, Tony, you're right. We're at a low ebb, and it's also affecting now, say, some of the finances is coming in and out, because a lot of our backers put money in the team, but they got to see the right things happening. So there's a whole, I suppose, knock-on effect to the team at the minute. Now, I do feel sorry for the players that are caught up in the middle of this, but certainly don't. We need something now. I think we need someone experienced to come in to set up. We need to try and beat down somewhere about the 11-10, 12-10 mark, and people will be saying that's blanket defence. But until we get our defence right, every team's building defence first. We've got to get our defence right and then counter-attack. That's basically what everybody's doing. But neither side of our team are doing that tactically. So that's the first job. And there's a talk of a training camp costing big money and Johnson housing us. You know, I'd say we have a centre of excellence over there. Let's stay in a Donegal hotel. Let's cut out that expense. Let's get the basics right on the pitch first. Let's get these players back tuned into Donegal, because I felt that bad for them yesterday. And even when we were on the attack, particularly in the second half, guys at the ball, and they're kind of looking around each other and that. So it's almost as if we need to start from scratch again, go back to the complete basics of football, and let's build this team up for the championship.
Brendan, the DL debate tonight, as you said, Oisín presenting, standing in for yourself. You're heading down to Ireland, France, and hopefully you have a good night down there tonight, and I hope yourself and your nephew will enjoy it. We'll be listening, obviously.
There might be more blanket defence. There might be more blanket defence. Well, Ireland tonight. Well, Mbappe would take Mbappe would be a good corner forward, let me tell you.
Well, he would. I'll tell you something, though. If they can keep Mbappe quiet, they'll be doing a good job tonight.
They will indeed.
No doubt about it. Brendan, a pleasure of always. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, sir.
That's Brendan. Brendan and his guests. Well, Brendan will be speaking to Aidan O'Rourke, to Patrick McBrearty, to Peter Campbell. That segment pre-recorded. It'll be Oisín that will be presenting DL Debate tonight, and it's in association, of course, with Sarah's Kitchen at Sister Sarah's in Letterkenny. Always compelling listening, the DL Debate. Now, let's take a couple of your comments. Caller says, I was given a credit note from a business. I have it about 8 months. I went back to the business recently and asked when I could get a refund as the service isn't available. They can't give me a timeline for the service to be reinstated. I got nowhere. This week I decided to use the credit note for another service that business provides, only to be told the note is out of date, but there is no date marked on my note. My understanding is that a credit note is valid for 2 years and a voucher for 5. Does this business have a legal obligation to stand over my credit note? My uneducated and unlawyerly view would be absolutely yes, but take advice on that. Possibly the Consumers Association may be somewhere to go for advice on that, caller, but certainly it seems to me that, and I'm told by Caroline, we indeed have passed that question on to them ourselves as well. Just want to give you a mention to the fact that the well-known England-based Donegal man Brendan Tiny Vaughan will be bringing his tractor raffle to Creasla on Good Friday, April 7th. Brendan's come up with a novel idea to raise funds to assist with the funding for the emergency services who assisted during the Creasla tragedy. He's known to many for his wonderful photography of the Donegal and Irish community, both here and indeed across the water in London as well. He's sourced a Massey Ferguson 135. He plans to raffle it in the coming months, hopefully raising quite a lot of money. Tickets will be priced at €10 or indeed £10 sterling, and he hopes to bring the tractor to various locations in Donegal and London, and he'll be in Creasla with it at midday on Good Friday. And always great to see good work like that being done, and people like Brendan Vaughan are doing good work like that all of the time. Now, we're going to take a quick break. After that, back with more discussion.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Hop into Easter entertaining with Dunn Stores. Mix and match 3 for 2 on a range of antipasti and party favourites, like flaky mini vol au vents, quiches, tarts and charcuterie platters. Plus, it's 2 for €8 on an array of indulgent cheeses, like creamy French brie and bold blue Stilton. You'll be a happy bunny when you save even more with our 10/50 grocery voucher. Dunn Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used in next grocery shop of €50 or more.
The Sign Place Callahan's Bird have a job opportunity for a full-time graphic designer. Working Monday to Friday, the graphic designer will work as an integral part of our team, assisting with the design, manufacturing and production of graphics and signage projects. At the Sign Place Callahan's Bird, we specialise in the production of internal and external signage, as well as vehicle graphics, advertising material, banners and logos. Experience preferred. Please send CVs to info@thesignplace.ie.
Do you have training requirements within your company? SafeTech are running a number of part-funded programs, including electro and butt fusion welding, first aid, water hygiene, company safety officer, confined spaces, food hygiene, construction site supervisor, various plant UK construction cards, and much more. Contact SafeTech today on safetech.ie.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Great moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitardandnorthdown.com/offers.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
16 minutes past 11 o'clock. Earlier we spoke about the road at Mill Road in Ballybofey and the potholes and so on, and a long discussion with that during which we had a contribution from Councillor Patrick McGowan, who chairs the Lifford-Stranora Municipal District. Joined on the line by Joe, who wants to make a comment. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal.
Yeah, you know that road, you believe, and you believe there are issues which have contributed to the state it's in at the moment.
Exactly, Donal. I mean, that road has been in quite a vulnerable state for years and years, but and it occasionally you do get potholes in it. But around last autumn time, They cut down all the broadleaf trees that were lining that road, and since then it's been it's been a step change. You know, it's unbelievably worse. And it's been bad now since Christmas. They fill it in occasionally with some loose gravel, and it's washed away within 24 hours.
Yeah. Now, I know Councillor McGowan did say that the hope is that they'll be able to do a more permanent filling in of the potholes, actually using proper tar and proper surfacing, and that should be longer lasting. But your belief is that getting rid of those trees, that they were effectively sheltering the area from the frost, and now that they are gone, the area is now wide open to the elements, and that's having an impact.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this right around the county. Trees along the roads all over the county are getting cut down, and it's very hard to predict what the effects of that will be sometimes. And I mean, it's clear to me that the state of this road is not like it has been any other winter. It is vastly different. There's no comparison. I mean, it does get potholes, and they do fill them in, and usually it could last maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, but now it's not lasting at all. Yeah. And it's never gotten this bad before, and it's a complete step change. And I mean that's a very visible difference between this year and previous years.
We have been given that commitment, as Councillor McGowan outlined from Donegal County Council, that the road is now on its roads programme, that it will be doing a more permanent job on that road to address those potholes. That we've had a situation up to now, as you've pointed out, where it's been basically a patch-up job here and there, but those patch-up jobs don't work. So a more permanent job hopefully will lead to a more permanent improved surface on the road. Are you happy with that commitment?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an improvement, but I mean, I would like to see some joined-up thinking from the forestry or the council, whoever is cutting down trees, willy-nilly all over the place. Well, I mean, those trees were there for decades, and there was never a problem. I mean, I don't know what improvement has been gained from it. I mean, I understand probably some insurance issue, but I mean, if you're in problem with insurance, you legislate for that. You don't cut down trees. They're changing the wrong variable here.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they can improve the roads, yeah, I mean, great. But there doesn't seem to be any thought to the consequences of what they're doing when they cut down these trees along the roads.
Yeah, Joe, a point well made. Thank you very much indeed for making it. That's Joe there on that Mill Road there in Ballybofey. Joe, thank you. And we will be waiting to see what happens there. Hopefully we'll get some proper improvement on that particular stretch. I want to mention there's an Autism Awareness Coffee Morning taking place at the Autism Family Support Centre. It's on Convent Road, Letterkenny in Donegal, 1A Convent Road. It's on Sunday, the 2nd of April from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. So 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. on this coming Sunday, April 2nd, the Autism Family Support Group inviting you to a coffee morning to celebrate and raise awareness of autism on World Autism Day 2023. We've got a message from a family, and it's one which it's a difficult read, but it's an important one. I just want to share this with you. Our teenager was always full of happiness, competence and confidence, was part of a group of friends when a couple of ringleaders started being mean in a very passive and sly way, so others didn't see what they were doing. As a result, our teenager became totally isolated. Our happy child has become withdrawn, does not want to leave their room, is extremely upset all the time. Anxiety has become a huge issue. We as parents have no idea how to support our child, and our child has refused to go for any counselling. And that's a call that has come in to us from someone who is very concerned, and understandably so. Is there any advice you can offer? Is there any perspective you can give on this? Child was happy and outgoing. A so-called friend has begun to act in a mean and passive way. The child, as a result, has become withdrawn and at the moment is refusing to do any counselling sessions. If you have any perspective on that, by all means, please do get in touch. Now, I'm going to change the direction completely and talk about mink. We know that there were some mink farms in the county, and legislation has been brought into place to close those farms down and stop farming mink for fur. One of the problems over the years has been, we understand, a number of mink have escaped from those farms and are in the wild. John joins us on the line. John, good morning to you.
Good morning to you,
John. Indeed, it's our pleasure, John. It's an important issue. You have been having issues with ducks and chickens, and you believe problems you're having are linked with mink.
Yeah, like that there now. It was one of them things there that I put a lot of thought and everything into over the last couple of years, and all we wanted to have was, a couple of chickens and ducks and everything. We done the fencing to the highest standard that we could possibly do and everything like that there, even including building a shed and everything to lock them up at night and everything. And then, of course, Friday night, Saturday morning, we went out and we were cleaned out all the chickens. And, I mean, if it was a fox or something like that there, from what I believe is that they take one or kill one, but this was just a slaughter. It was hard to deal with, don't.
And are you based near where one of those mink farms would have been located?
I'm actually between Annager, Lough Norn, from a past area. Yeah. And and like as I said in that, there wasn't a thing that was thought of overnight. There was a lot of planning put into place and a lot of fencing put up, and everything. And you think you lock them up at night and everything. You think to yourself, you're watching them during the day, and you're doing all that you can, and the next thing you get wiped out in the night. It's not great. It's heartbreaking.
I'm sure you've been speaking with friends and neighbours in the area.
Yes,
have other people been having issues as well?
That's right. Yes, they have. Yes, and some of the stories there, it's horrendous. And that's the reason I rang today. Because we thought a lot about it in that day, and we don't know where to go from there. And we weren't selling eggs or anything like that. That would be giving them to neighbours and everything. Yeah. It was a pastime, and it's one of them things there. Everybody, nowadays, it's a nice thing to think that you can rear them, and I mean, to be wiped out overnight like that there, you think to yourself, what can you do? What's the other precautions can you do? Or is the councils there, are they putting up things there that you can actually trap them, or what happens to them afterwards? But definitely, with the devastation that was done, it wasn't a fox. It had to be the mink, and
I mean, are there mink wild in the area, do you believe? And have we had issues like this before?
I do believe they are, because I do believe, and from talking to different ones now since that there, a lot of people have spotted them personally and everything, and even the likes of Gold Island, I believe, that they were spotted and everything, and it was a thing that I didn't know too much about, till I heard about, years back or whatever, coming to years back, that there had been ones in the area, and what's been done about them? Are they still out there? And I'm just trying to put it out there to listeners. Maybe some of the listeners out there would have had the same problem, or I'm not sure.
And sometimes the problem can be identifying actually who has responsibility for this. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe National Parks and Wildlife would have some role to play. Now, I'm not sure if their role extends, say, beyond Glenveigh National Park or government lands, but I'm not sure if they would have and the other thing, of course, is that mink is not technically mink is not a wild animal. That we understand there are some in the wild because they've escaped from farms over the years. But it's a very interesting one. And John, hopefully you'll get some resolution to this. But listen, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Not at all.
And we wish you well. Are you going to replace them and start again?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know because too much time and effort, and then you think to yourself, what do you do next? And it's heartbreaking. And when you have an empty yard, and just because of one of them, it's crazy.
Well, John, whatever you decide, we wish you well, and hopefully, if you do get back into raising chickens and ducks, you'll have better luck in the future. But certainly, we'll be keeping a close eye on that one. That's John there in West Donegal, and he believes that the slaughter of his chickens and ducks was down to mink. Caller comments and says, the end of the eviction ban has lots of landlords rubbing their hands with glee. Good tenants have already received their month's notice to quit by the end of April. A house that currently demands €500 to €600 a month can be quadrupled renting it to Ukrainians. €35 per person per night is the going rate. That means a house with only 2 Ukrainians can get €490 per week, 2,100 per month. Don't blame the poor Ukrainians. They do need somewhere to live. Long-term good renters should be protected. I have good neighbours that this is happening to. I'm so angry at what this government is doing. And the caller adds, I myself do fundraise and volunteer to help Ukrainian refugees, which is a fair point, and certainly the point's taken on board. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll have our monthly focus. And this week, we're going to be speaking about addiction to over-the-counter medicines.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Do you have a favourite business in Donegal that you absolutely love? If they're your go-to for exceptional service, it's time to give them the recognition they deserve by nominating them for the Highland Radio Customer Service Awards in association with PGIM Ireland.
Our Customer Service Awards celebrate the businesses that go above and beyond to provide exceptional service. This award is a great way to show your appreciation for the businesses that make a difference in your life.
To nominate your favourite business, simply visit highlandradio.com and fill out the nomination form and tell us why you love this business.
The winning business will receive recognition at our special awards ceremony on the 28th of May. Plus, they will have the satisfaction of knowing that they have made a positive impact on their customers.
So don't wait any longer. Nominate your favourite business today. It only takes a few minutes by going to highlandradio.com. Nominations close on Friday the 7th of April.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,150 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
At Shannon Airport, we know what makes a dream holiday. It's not just the huge choice of destinations like Chicago, Paris, Newcastle, Naples, Barcelona and Porto. It's the hassle-free experience that makes getting through our airport a dream. So whatever dream holiday you're packing for, head for shannonairport.ie. Shannon Airport, making it easy.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Super Value Fresh Irish Sirloin Steak, now half price. Santa Rita 120 Cabernet Sauvignon, now €8. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So, follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
The one and only Tom Jones is back, and we're going to be there. Join us as Highland Radio hit the road to see the timeless legend as he headlines Belsonic 2023, Friday 16th of June. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast in the 4-star Clayton Hotel Belfast, and your standing ticket to the outdoor event. Contact us today on 074 9125,000 to see Tom Jones at Ormo Park Belfast, Friday 16th of June.
Now that is going to be a show. Time for our Monday Focus. Today we're speaking about addiction to over-the-counter medicines. Delighted to say that we're joined on Zoom by Professor Colin O'Gara. He's the head of addiction services at the St John of God Hospital and clinical professor of psychiatry at UCD. Dr. O'Gara, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Just struggling to hear you a tiny bit there, Donald.
Okay, I'm about as loud as I can go on this end without, in fact, deafening the listeners through their speakers. So if you can just make out what I'm saying, I'm afraid I can't really go any louder than this because I have, obviously, I have to keep an eye on the levels that go out on air.
Sure.
Yeah. Colin, how big an issue is addiction to over-the-counter medicines?
Addiction to the over-the-counter medications, Donald, has been substantial. I mean, if you look at 2012, there were restrictions put on the sale of these medicines. So, going back as far as there was a significant issue. I think in recent times, codeine has remained a significant problem. That would be the likes of Nurofen Plus and Solpadeine. Usually these medications are thought to be mild opioids. But when you're taking them in significant amounts, it can be quite harmful.
You also tell that you were contacted by someone recently who said they had a friend that bought a mix of medicines that they could buy perfectly legally in a pharmacy, but they could mix them in such a way as to get high.
Yeah, I mean, the over-the-counter medicines are a concern in terms of the abuse potential. But I would say as well, Donald, I mean, the amounts of medication out there in terms of the internet and other opioids, much stronger opioids like painkillers and fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug that is many times stronger than heroin and has a very strong risk of overdose. So the opioids are a big concern because they are linked with heroin, and the big concern with opioids is overdose, Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're in extreme pain, you may at times, under strict supervision, usually in a hospital, gain access to the stronger drugs. And I have myself, on one occasion, actually had in the UK what I believe would a drug called diamorphine, which was very, very strong indeed. Now, I had it once and it was very effective. The worry is if someone decides, I've got a headache, you know what I really need is I really need that really strong drug that I had that time in the hospital. And that's maybe when we start going down the slippery slope. These drugs are very potentially important and beneficial to us, but under very strict and very, very regulated and specific circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And regulated is the correct term, I mean, these, over-the-counter medicines are available to a lot of people, and they should be available, in my view, to a lot of people without restriction. If you have to go to an overburdened GP service to get access to, the likes of over-the-counter codeine medicines, I think that would be a backward step. I think we do need to look at, if people are taking over-the-counter codeine medications in an abusive way, we need to look at how to support people in those situations. There is no doubt that, this strikes probably on drug policy all the way up. You mentioned diamorphine, which is interesting because in the days of when I was working in London over 20 years ago, there was a doctor called John Strang who I worked with, and he was probably one of the pioneers of injecting clinics. And what you give to people in injecting clinics is actually diamorphine. So that's the controversial practice of allowing people to inject in certain circumstances, supervised medically, of course. And what it does is it gives people, or it lends an opportunity to engage people in treatment, get them off the street, and reduce acquisitive crime, like muggings and break-ins, and the type of crime that goes with drug use. So, although the over-the-counter, we may not link up over-the-counter addiction with that other type of addiction, it is all linked.
And part of the problem sometimes can be people start on a pathway of, particularly if someone maybe gets regular headaches or gets regular aches and pains, that they realise at some point that taking an ibuprofen or a codeine medicine that they've got in the pharmacy, that has worked. And sometimes in their heads they go, I took one dose and it worked really well, so if I take 2 doses it might work twice as well, and that's where we can sometimes start that slippery slope of making the presumption that I'm in pain, as long as I take more and more and more of the drug, that pain's going to go away. But 2 things are going to potentially happen. Number 1, we're going to build up some form of resistance, so it's not going to be as effective the 10th time as it was the first time. But as well as that, we're actually going down the road of, particularly, I know if you take ibuprofen over a prolonged period period, you can leave yourself open to stomach ailments and other side effects that can be very problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned a few things there. I mean, one is the route into taking over-the-counter pills. One is alcohol. So alcohol nearly always comes into the picture in terms of what I call a gateway drug. So, alcohol is a very harmful drug, and it does lead, say for instance, very practically with hangover. So a lot of the patients we see are taking 4 to 6, Nurofen or Solpadeine a day. And that can build up, and the reason for that is hangover. So it can very much build up from there. The phenomenon that you're describing is called tolerance. So you do develop tolerance over time, and you need to take more of the drug to have the same desired effect, and it goes on from there. So again, it's really, it's about education. It's about knowing that these pills are dangerous. You mentioned ibuprofen. A lot of people don't really know that the other piece of these codeine medications, they're non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. They're very toxic on the stomach and the small bowel in particular. And one of the routes of referral that we would have would be from gastroenterology clinics where there's been a perforation of the bowel, So, the message is that for a lot of people, these drugs can be useful when they're used properly. They shouldn't be used more than 3 days, is what a pharmacist will say. If it's used properly, Donal, in those situations, there's no issue. But it's when they're used, for an extended period of time. I would caution, for your listeners, just be aware that. The other thing, just to be aware of some of the more stronger medications. So something like Solpadol would have 30 milligrams of codeine in it, where Solpadeine would be in around 12. So, and Solpadol could be prescribed multiple times over a day if you had an injury or if you're post-surgery, So just to be aware that codeine is highly addictive, and it can be very problematic,
You have indicated that you're not necessarily in favour of increasing the number of drugs that actually require a doctor's prescription. Now, we know, for instance, on this side of the border, a number of drugs, particularly those that will contain codeine and ibuprofen, drugs like Nurofen and the other generic sort of equivalents are only available in pharmacies. One of the realities in an area like Donegal, of course, is we can drive 20 minutes down the road across the border and easily buy generic boxes of those drugs for less than £1 in a local supermarket. But you don't believe that restricting, making them prescription only is necessarily the answer?
No, I don't, because I think what you're doing is you're restricting appropriate use of that drug to probably 80% of the population. And I think it's also preventing us doing what we should really do, which is start to get to the roots of why people use drugs in this matter, and people who use drugs in this matter need to be supported. They shouldn't be criminalized. They shouldn't, we're really just going down the wrong road entirely, in my view, taking that approach. And it, you can extend that across to other drugs as well, really. People who suffer from addiction are ill. They're ill with a medical disorder, and they deserve to be helped, in my view.
And I'm sure the last thing doctors need is more pressure having to prescribe painkillers for people that are going to start flooding their surgeries because they have a headache or because they have a toothache. I mean, that's the last thing doctors need, is to have more pressure piled on top of already, for many of them, intolerably busy surgeries.
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant point. And what I just add on to it is that it's just not feasible, because there's, GPs are absolutely, at the limit, if not over the limit at the moment. And to suggest that they would be absolutely inundated. So it's just an absolute non-runner, that is,
The advice that's given is always read the label, and maybe sometimes we don't always listen to that advice, and it's a bit like just whenever you hear an ad for a bank, there's regulated by the Financial Services Authority, and that just washes over us. And sometimes take this drug, always read the label. Sometimes that always read the label just washes over us as well. Your advice to people would be, do you know what? Read the label.
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose in the absence of smart education campaigns, I mean, when was the last time we heard a smart a national campaign around particular drugs. We haven't, you see. So, I mean, if we had those and people were aware, and, that could be started at secondary school level and up, so that people do know what's out there. They know the dangers associated with it. But again, you need funding to do that. And really, there's so many worthy medical causes out there. Addiction tends to come down the pecking order, Donald,
Yeah. Now, I have one question. I'll put it to you. I'm not sure this is within your remit in bailiwick, so if it isn't, we'll absolutely understand. A caller is asking, is it safe to take Solpadeine while you're on blood thinners?
Well, look, I mean, I would say you have to answer that question in the context of your medical condition, and really it's one for the doctor, the particular practitioner to answer, because there could be many other factors in it, Donald. So I wouldn't answer that straight off without seeing the whole situation.
Yeah. In terms of, and we'll finish up after this, but in terms of the ongoing debate about the taking, how much of it is based, do you believe, on the fact that people just don't have the information, that people don't perhaps know that long-term use of codeine or ibuprofen or whatever can have those effects, can be addicted, that people aren't willingly going down this road out of any sort of sense of badness or anything? They're going down that road out of a sense of not knowing the potential consequences.
I think it's huge. I think that part of it is, like, how are you going to know what a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory is? How are you going to know that that's actually within these pills? And how are you going to know that? I mean, you need to, like, in my view, the only place you learn a lot of that is in medical school. I mean, yeah, you could, it's the information is there technically if you go looking for it on the internet, but like you're not necessarily. And again, it comes down to pharmacists. I mean, it's not reasonable to expect pharmacists to be policing, chasing, identifying potential, people who are, people who have problems. Definitely the obvious cases, if people are shopping around and the pharmacist has a high level of suspicion, that's fine. But there's a whole cohort of people there who are probably on the borders, and it's more subtle. And I think it's completely unreasonable to expect pharmacists to do the whole thing, police and monitor and the whole lot. It's completely unreasonable,
Certainly a very important issue to be discussing. And Professor Colin O'Gara, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Donald, and I'm glad I managed to hear you just about. Sorry about the
Excellent.
Picture, but I had the phone practically up to my ear.
The picture was absolutely fine. I fully appreciate that. Colin, thank you.
Thanks a million, Donald.
It's been great speaking to you. That's, as we said, Professor Colin O'Gara there. He is the head of addiction services at the St. John of God Hospital, and he's clinical professor of psychiatry at UCD. Very important issues being discussed there. And I suppose it does bring it through to us that maybe the important thing is, particularly if taking a drug for the first time, even though it's over the counter, always read the label, because some of the information that's on that label can be very, very important indeed. And it's an issue that does. Someone did say, I had diamorphine when I was in London. I will absolutely stress, I was given it when an inpatient in a hospital after surgery. I was given it by a nurse on the prescription of a doctor, and it was not under any other circumstance, and I haven't had it since. Someone else asked, did it work? Yes, it did. Absolutely it did. Now, caller says, can you ask your listeners, are any of them still waiting to receive the €1,000 pandemic payment? I work for a nurse on call. I'm a healthcare assistant. I've been there for 5 years. I worked 12-hour shifts at Letterkenny University Hospital at the height of the pandemic in full PPE for 12 hours, direct contact with COVID-positive patients. And while most other agencies have paid out the payment due to their workers, we've been told yet again it's not available for us yet. It is so unfair. It's a very important issue. So if anybody else out there is still waiting for that promised pandemic payment, we would love to hear from you. Another letter we've had via email. I'm contacting Highland Radio in relation to my recent hospitalisation in Letterkenny Hospital for quite major surgery. I'm covered fully by my private health insurance for both private professional medical care and hospital stay. I attended the morning my surgery was scheduled and was channeled directly to surgery. 5 hours post-surgery, I was transferred to a 6-bed hospital ward. The following morning, a person from the accounts payment section came to my ward and presented me with a private insurance patient form to sign a waiver for my eligibility as a public patient for my accommodation. I was told I was in a semi-private ward and that I would be liable for the €80 a day charges if I didn't sign. As well as that, I was told my health provider would be charged €650 a day for semi-private accommodation. I was not fully recovered from the effects of my operation, but I signed reluctantly. The next morning I was able to leave my ward briefly and discovered that indeed I was in a fully public ward. That's understandable because of bed availability. I don't have an issue with this. I must emphasise the medical care and treatment which I received was nothing short of excellent. The classification of public or private was irrelevant to me. However, if this billing is common practice by hospital administration to charge semi-private rates for public accommodation, I can only describe it as unfair. Private medical insurance is expensive, but practices such as this can only lead to hikes in premiums, so says our correspondent. That's an interesting question. And I would say if you do have an issue and you believe that you were treated wrongly at the hospital, I mean, you've got the health ombudsman that you could perhaps go to. There's an insurance ombudsman as well. Or you could raise the issue directly with your insurer and see if this is acceptable practice to them. I mean, certainly you could make those inquiries. Now, the time on Highland Radio is 13 minutes to 12. Going to take a short break. Back after these.
We at Highland Radio love Irish music and we want to show our support. Throughout Irish Music Month this March, in partnership with Hot Press Magazine, we're asking you to support the Irish musicians, artists and bands who make every party, every drive home and every day magic. That's right. To celebrate Irish Music Month on Highland Radio, we're asking you to support Irish artists and musicians by buying Irish albums, Irish tickets, Irish t-shirts and Irish music merch. Irish musicians have shown that they are right up there with the best in the world, so let's support them by buying Irish. Proudly supported by Highland Radio, Hot Press, IBI and the BAI Sound and Vision Fund.
Go full Lidl for the perfect Easter dinner. Our Board B approved deluxe Irish stuffed Carvery leg of lamb, $17.99 per kilo. And a bottle of our award-winning Saint-Emilion Grand Cru from Bordeaux was $14.99, now $7.99. In stores March 30th. Go on, go full Lidl this Easter. Get the facts by Drinkaware, visit drinkaware.ie.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Attention all sports fans. O'Neill Sportswear have an amazing clearance sale happening in their Strabane warehouse. For 4 days only from Thursday through till Sunday, you'll find everything you need to look and feel the best on the field. From jerseys to shorts, tees to hoodies, they've got it all. We'll see you there. O'Neill's. Live for it.
At Allstate, we provide flexible working options that make work for you. You can choose condensed working or a flexible start or finish time. Choose to work from home or the office whenever you want. Don't miss out on the moments that matter to you. Make work for you. Search Allstate NI Careers today.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Great moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitArdsandNorthdown.com/offers.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Fancy a European city break this summer? Discover the beautiful cities of Barcelona, Cologne and Milan with Ryanair. 6 flights a week for summer 2023. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Well, the forecast staying mainly dry to start with some sunny spells. Cloud will increase though as we go into the afternoon and evening. A few showers possible later, particularly in far western areas. Staying bright with sunny spells the further east you go. Top temperatures today 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. Light to moderate southeasterly winds, increasing moderate to fresh. Now, let's take a look at a few of your comments before we go to our final call on the show this morning. I sympathise, love and pray for the babies and parents of the Kerry baby saga, but it's in God's hands, and God's justice and mercy will deal with it in his own time. Leave it with God now and let Joanne Hayes have peace. It would fit the authorities of this country better to stop the present day killing of babies, disposing of their aborted remains in the bin or flushed down the toilets, which is happening here in the Irish Republic. What's the difference between then and now? Well, caller, you're entitled to your view, but I would have to say a baby who was born in this country, was stabbed 28 times, had its neck broken and was left lying dead and alone on a beach. I do think that merits investigation. Another caller says the sad thing about this story is that a baby boy was murdered and how the people responsible allowed Joanne Hayes and her family to go through hell for years. It's a disturbing story. Was it a pact to cover up for somebody else? Ray the Gardaí, I wish they could tie up the strings regarding missing Mary Boyle after 46 years as well. Another caller says the church had no connection with this case. The state handled it badly at the time. Fear of public opinion existed in most countries over 50 years ago, whether you lived here or in the UK. Another caller says, don't look what the guards and the state did in Donegal to the McBurty and the Short family, and that's not all that long ago, so says a caller. Now, in our newspaper review earlier, we had a headline from the Derry News that said the SDLP were seeking redress for homeowners in Derry, Tyrone and Fermanagh affected by defective concrete blocks. Joined on the line by Councillor Daniel McCrossan. Daniel, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Daniel, we know that Derry City and Strabane District Council began a process a number of months ago of getting information together and just finding out how many properties are involved, how many people are involved. But the council made it clear in doing that it couldn't take it any further, that there was nothing in effect Derry City and Strabane District Council can do. We know we do not have, for political reasons, a functioning executive and assembly at the moment. So where does this issue have to go for actual decisions?
There's a number of issues here. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that right across these border constituencies, it is highly likely that a number of homeowners is going to be affected by the defective block scandal that is ongoing in the south of the border. I'm aware of a property in Derry that has already been confirmed and identified. We are aware of one in Castlederg here, just in my own constituency, and I'm sure there are many more. The issue is how we encourage people to come forward if they believe that their property has been affected in any such way. And to date, there is very little in place, in fact nothing, that would help or assist those that are in that very difficult, stressful situation. We're talking about people's homes. We've seen the impact it has had right across Donegal and how it has destroyed people's lives. And certainly I do have a concern that there are a number of properties right across these relevant constituencies that I've just mentioned that are undoubtedly affected by defective blocks that have not yet been identified. I do welcome the leadership by Derry Strabane District Council that have brought about a scheme to register if you believe that your property or your home is affected by these defective blocks, but that in itself is nowhere near enough for a very simple reason. Someone coming forward and registering that their property is affected in such a very difficult way, but yet there's no support or help or assistance or redress at all being discussed, let alone being in place here in the north of Ireland, is an extremely difficult situation. The SDLP, my colleagues Justin McNulty and Mark Durkin and I, and indeed Colm East as the party leader, have raised continually in the last number of years our concerns that we do believe and highly would expect that there's properties in our constituencies that will be affected by this. And certainly at that time, Ministers Conor Murphy as the Minister for Finance and the Executive, Minister Deirdre Hargey as the Minister for Communities, the two respective departments that would be responsible for such a scheme, said that there had not been any indication that there's any properties affected, but at the same time there was no outreach from those departments to these communities, particularly in border regions, to find out if in fact there is properties affected. And walking around various places, and particularly along the border, you can see that it is likely in some aspects the properties are affected.
Now, as we said, Derry City and Strabane have made it quite clear that they're going to provide information, but they have also made it equally clear that they can have no role in any form of redress. So it then begs the question, where does it go from here? I mean, as you mentioned, Colm Eastwood, the MP for Foyle, obviously, is he having conversations in Westminster, and is this registering in any way over there? And then the next question is obviously going to be, will there be a cross-border dimension to any resolution of this?
We have written to previous ministers that were in place in the executive, as I said, Minister Conor Murphy and Deirdre Harkey of Sinn Féin when they were in office, and certainly nothing, unfortunately, has been done because at that stage there was no early indications of any properties that were affected. It would be very unusual, strange in fact, that given how our communities operate, that there is no properties affected in the north by these defective blocks, given that on a daily basis we organically and naturally cross the border on both sides of the island to live and to do very practical, normal, everyday things. The reality is that it wasn't, the scheme was, that when blocks were being sold in the south to the north, it wasn't properly being policed, and for that reason I would highly expect that there are properties affected here. In the interim, in the absence of an executive, in the absence of leadership at this place, which unfortunately is where we seem to find ourselves continually, it is very difficult to establish how we're going to resolve this issue. But the SDLP has written to the permanent secretaries for Department of Communities and Department of Finance and the head of the Civil Service, and we've also been writing to the Secretary of State to alert his attention to this potentially very difficult situation that is very fast coming on the tracks. There's people out there that won't even know their homes are affected as of yet, but the signs can be obvious, and we would ask people to identify or to familiarise themselves with those potential signs of these defective blocks and to reach out and come forward. The problem we have in trying to ensure that that happens is that there is an absence of any form of redress for those that will be in that situation. That is a great concern to me. We're talking about people's homes, people's livelihoods. People have saved and worked all their lives to build these properties, and unfortunately will be in a situation which will be very stressful. People will know that their homes are affected, but will be afraid to come forward because there isn't any support in place at the minute to assist those people in what will be a very difficult situation. And that is certainly something I will be raising as an MLA for this constituency, along with others who represent border constituencies and regions here across the north.
And this is the start of what's going to be a lengthy and sadly enduring conversation for many people. For now, Daniel McCrossan, MLA, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us this morning. We will of course be returning to this and it will be returned to, I'm sure, again and again in the coming months. But for now, Daniel McCrossan, thank you very much indeed. And that is the 9 to Noon show for this Monday morning. I'm back on the show again tomorrow morning at 9. Thank you to Anya for all her help. Thank you for Caroline, who produced and, as always, kept me right all the way through the programme. Most importantly, thank you to our contributors, and thank you to you for listening. John Breslin is up next around the Northwest, but for myself, Donald Kavanagh, have a very good day.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most